Greetings, brothers. How you guys all doing? Good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in on this Sunday. Nice to see you. Looks like my restream chat. I've been having some problems with restream right now. Can I refresh this? Let me see if I can close it. But yeah, please let me know if you can hear me okay. Yeah, let's just do a quick test on chat. Hello. Yeah, it looks like I'm having some problems with YouTube chat today. Okay. It wouldn't be a real stream if I wasn't having problems. How long should you boil a Tyrannid? Till it's al dente. Nice. Starting with the jokes today, Jace. How you doing? Let me just pop out the chat. So hopefully this will be okay. So I guess if you're watching today on Twitch, I might not see your chat. There seems to be some issue that I'm having today. But yeah, good afternoon. Welcome to episode 16 of the Army List Show. And today we are, of course, looking at army lists submitted by you guys, the community. So we do this every Sunday at 4 o'clock. And we usually live for about 2.5 hours. And we go over a bunch of different lists. Every week we have something new to look at, so it's quite a cool show. And if you do enjoy the show, please hit the like button. It really helps out. And yeah, thank you so much for doing that. So nice to see a bunch of people already here. Quite a lot of people already in the chat. And Mark, Gitley, Toxic, William, Jace, Adam, Mike, Martin. Wow, a lot of people here today. All right, cool. So we got 5 lists to get into as always. But just before we start, I want to tell you, as I drop the box on the floor, I want to tell you about the giveaway we're going to be doing, I think, on the Army List show next week. So we've got a box of Space Marine bikers that I traded some Forge World bits with one of our members of the channel. Already episode 16. Yeah, we've been going for a while actually. I rebranded the show before, so we actually have done more than 16 episodes. I just rebranded the show to make it a bit more clear what the show was after like 10 episodes. So we've probably done about 26 episodes. But yeah, so we've got these Space Marine bikers. And within this box, I guess there's 3 different bikers. So you guys know that I love the Chapter Master on the bike. I love a Death Company Captain on a bike. I think they're super useful. Toughness 5 is super nice against small arms fire. So 3 bikes to give away. We're going to do this on the show probably next week. I'll post an update on the community how we're going to give away these. Oh, and look, someone will get lucky. Someone will get these ultra rare Ultramarines transfers. What? Actually, do you know what? I'll tell a lie. There is some Blood Angels transfers on this sheet as well. So someone will win some Blood Angels transfers, but mostly Ultramarines. Cool. So we're going to be giving away this. We're going to give away 2 bikes to members and 1 bike to non-members this time round. Last time we did it open to everybody, but this time I want to say thank you to the members. So giveaway of some bikes coming up on the channel. To be in for a chance, you either need to be a member on Patreon or you need to be a member on here on YouTube. For 2, and then everybody else will get a chance of winning a 3rd bike. Hey Will, thanks for tuning in. And yeah, okay, so let's have a look at today's lists, or let's start by having a quick look at who's up for today's lists. And today's lists are submitted by Steve T, Tom Harris, Solos 1994, James Webb, and Slaumir. I'm not going to try and say your last name, Slaumir. I don't even think I'm pronouncing your first name correctly. So, yeah, 5 lists today to look at, and James did actually just message me on Facebook just before I was getting set up to say he has made a quick tweak to his list. So I'm just going to add that in real quick. I could have been more organised today, but I really wasn't. Cool, so let me just add this to the top for James's list so we know what's going down. Cool. Okay. And as always, take any questions that you have on rules, strategies, anything from the chat. We always take questions from the chat, and Firstborn bikers, no less. None of this Primaris tosh. Yeah, I mean they are firstborn bikers. I mean the Primaris biker on the jump pack is good. Sorry, the Primaris chaplain on a bike is good. I think he's really good actually. But yeah, these are firstborn bikers so that you can make your chapter master on a bike. Also tweet mine if you saw my comment. Maybe Steve. Well, maybe we want to start with you or Steve. How? Let me think. Let me see when this file was last edited. No, this file hasn't been edited in like a month and a half. So if you've made a tweak, Steve, I guess I need you to send me it on Discord or, are you in Discord? Can you send me it there? Because I don't think you'll get to type it all into the Facebook chat. Sorry, the YouTube chat window. So maybe we'll start with Tom then, and we'll come back on you, Steve. I may be able to find it. Give me 1 second. Let me see. Great stratagem video this week, Blood Angels Commander. Yeah, thanks. I think this week we're gonna do the Vindicator and the Laser Destroyer. Let me see if I've got it, Steve. Hold on, I'm searching now. Tweak my list if it's not a bit late. Did you actually just edit your first? Did you just edit your first comment that you sent me like 2 weeks ago? Has Tom tweaked his list? I hope not. If you just tweaked your first list, then I guess I have it now. Maybe we'll just start where we were with Steve, and if it's wrong, Steve, please shout out, and we'll make the changes. Okay, so more than another, you know, how you doing? So hey, Commander, made a few tweaks if it's possible to change my list. Yeah, maybe this is the tweaked version. All right, so still a very new player, but made some updates to my limited army to use the chagrin of my paycheck. I don't know what chagrin means, but I'm guessing it means your wages or something. Hoping to have a good all-round list that can take and hold objectives while eliminating key enemy characters and units. Usually I take Oath of Moment, engage on all fronts, and one opponent dependent pick secondary. I mean, that's kind of... Oath of Moment is a very solid one to score. Engage of all fronts as well is a solid one to score. So I guess these as the two core that you pick is absolutely fine. My strategy is still terrible, no doubt, but here it goes. Thinking the Blade Guards and the Company Champion will move to hold the middle of the board. Assault Intercessors will move up in front of the Leviathan to screen and hopefully move to pressure some of the larger blob units. One Infiltrator unit will be staggered across the backfield to use that 12-inch Omni Scrambler ability to deny deep strike, while the other unit will move up with the Phobos Librarian to take objectives early. Temporal Corridor and hold for Oath of Moment strong scoring. Figure they will need Temporal Corridor and some added survivability with Shrouding. My Warlord Smash Captain lets Sanguine Guard reroll with 1s and has a 5 triple plus for added survivability with 2 Infernal Pistols as well. It's hopefully well rounded. I don't think you can take 2 Infernal Pistols. I guess we'll have to come to where... Unless you have a captain and another unit with Infernal... Or the 2 Infernal Pistols and a Sanguine Guard. To delete units and target armor, tough characters if needed, +1 to hit rolls for the Sanguine Guard, and the reroll means they're pretty much guaranteed to make their hits too. Death Company, the Chaplain, and the bike will be a great murder bob. Figure I can deep strike the Death Company where it's needed and move the Chaplain accordingly. Terminators can either deep strike and as units push up or teleport into the backfield if units start pushing into my side of the field. Figured mobility is solid, shooting is okay-ish with the Infiltrators, Dreadnought, and Whirlwind, so I'm hoping to make some decent shooting happen in turn 1s and 2. Once Assault Doctrine goes off, I should be in a solid place to do some real damage with Assault Intercessors, Death Company, Sanguine Guard. Looking forward to your thoughts. Okay. So you've changed all to Incursors. I mean, that's okay as well. Oh, Assault Intercessors, sorry. You've changed the Assault Intercessors to Incursors. Okay, yeah, I mean, that's actually fine. Assault Intercessors are fine as well, but Incursors are just a little bit better. Can you update the name of the list? Yeah, sorry, of course I can. Yeah, I was having some problems before I managed to get started today with Restream, just not... It's still having problems, it's not showing me the Restream chat. So it just took me a few minutes. Alright, so Steve T, here we go. Cool, so list number 1, Steve T. And we start with one relic of the chapter. We have a captain who has Artisan of War and Gift of Foresight. He's an Infernal Pistol, Jump Pack, Mastercrafted Weapon, Thunderhammer, and he's the Warlord. Okay. I mean, this guy's pretty decent, right? He's got the 5+, Feel No Pain, as you mentioned. He gets to reroll some saves. I guess the Mastercrafted Weapon is the Thunderhammer. I'm trying to think if you'd just be better off taking Hammer of Baal if that's the case. But maybe the Mastercrafted Thunderhammer is better because you know, with the Gift of Foresight, you reroll 1 damage and 1 wound roll, so you'll have potentially 4 damage Thunderhammer hits going off, which is basically it's probably better. I think when we math hammered it, that they were very similar, but I guess Gift of Foresight will probably give it the edge. We then have a Librarian in Phobos armor who is Shrouding, Soul Sight, Temporal Corridor, and he is the Chief Librarian. I'm going to have a quick look at these powers just to remind myself what they are for the Phobos Librarian, because I do not run Obscuration Discipline like at all. Let's have a quick look. Shrouding. Shrouding is a warp charge of 6. If manifested, select 1 friendly Phobos unit within 18 until the start of the next psychic phase. Unless the unit is the closest eligible target, enemy models cannot use that for range attacks. Okay. Soul Sight. Warp charge is 6 again. If manifested, Phobos unit with 18 inches of the Psyker until the start of your next psychic phase. Each time a model in that unit makes a ranged attack, you can reroll the hit roll, and the target does not receive the benefits of cover against that attack. Okay, and then number 6 is Temporal Corridor. Warp charge of 5. If manifested, select 1 friendly Phobos unit within 6. That unit cannot shoot or fight this turn. If that unit is not within engagement range of any enemy models, it can either make a normal move or it can make an advanced move as if for your movement phase. If it advances, do not make an advance roll. Instead, until the end of the phase, add 6 to the movement characteristic of that unit. That is a weird one. So you sacrifice you sacrifice your shooting on combat to get like a double move with a Phobos unit. I mean, I guess if you're seeing value in it, I am not familiar with that strat at all. I have not used it. Okay. Mastercrafted Thunderhammer. So it doesn't cost a relic slot. Freeing that to be used on something else. This can be worthwhile. You're gonna have to pay Angel's Exemplar for either the Mastercrafted or the Adamant. I mean, this is valid, but I don't see how it saves you a relic slot, because you're still going to have to pay the 1 CP, or well, I mean, it's on your Warlord, so I guess it does save you the relic slot, I suppose. Obscuration saved me from a Titan in yesterday's game. Well, I mean, fair enough. I just don't typically run Obscuration. I mean, I guess it's got good synergy with the Phobos units, but maybe Librarian Discipline gives you more synergy across your whole army, right? Like with the sort of Psychic Fortress, or maybe Veil of Time or Null Zone. They're all very strong picks as well. The only thing on the captain is the captain's. Is he a captain, so he cannot take Angel's Artifice, right? Yes, Angel's Artifice is No. Yeah, you're right. You cannot take Angel's Artifice. So right now he's on a 3+ save. Wonder if the Storm Shield or Indomitus armor is. I mean, I guess the captain's just built for damage, right? And I think a 3+ save, 4+ invulnerable save, and 5+ feel no pain is decent. I mean, it's not the greatest. It's decent, I guess. And what is the captain on? Like 5 wounds? I haven't been running captains in this edition without them being on a bike, but I feel like he's going to be on 5 wounds, right? Yeah, 5 wounds, toughness 4. So I mean, the captain is a bit of a glass cannon, but we kind of know that. I went to bed 3 hours ago, said Big Chief. Well, good morning, Big Chief. Unless you're still watching on your phone in bed. Good morning. And then Primaris Chaplain on a bike, Litany of Faith, Mantra of Strength, Benediction of Fury, Master of Sanctity. You know, I'd really think about playing Hero of the Chapter on this guy, Steve, and make him the Wiser Rater, for sure. I would pay the 1 CP to do it. What are you starting with, like 8 CP? Yeah, I'd totally make this guy the Wiser Rater. It gives him 1 more Litany, and it makes his litanies cast on 2s rather than 3s. Over the course of the game, that'll make a big difference. You know, you'll get a lot more casts out of it, and you'll also get more reliable casts as well. So, yeah, I'd totally spend 1 CP and make the Primaris Chaplain on the bike Hero of the Chapter. Especially if he's running like Benediction of Fury as well. Like he's generally pretty, like, you want him to be as strong as he can be, and you'll be stronger if you add another litany and make them go off on 2s. Yeah, armor and Indomitus on this captain would be good, I suppose, says Adam. But Adam, you'd have to drop either the Mastercrafted weapon or the 5+ feel no pain. Like, you couldn't. There's no way you could have both of them and armor and Indomitus. Some people like to play the captains very aggressively. I like to make my models survive because I think we get more value in the end game if our models are still alive. But yeah, I mean, I don't think this is bad either. Especially if you're arriving from Deep Strike and you make the charge and you have like that Thunderhammer with 4 damage a swing and you're re-rolling 1 hit and 1 wound. It's going to be pretty devastating. Okay, and then I think Steve said he was going to switch out those Assault Intercessors for Incursors, and then a couple of Infiltrator squads to protect the backline. We also have the Blade Guard Veterans, and it's a 4-man squad. A company champion with the Blade of Triumph. He has Iron Resolve, I guess, to give him another wound and a feel no pain. A larger Death Company, 2, 4, 6, 7. So 9-man Death Company, 2 Thunderhammers, 7 Bolters and Chainswords. Leviathan Dreadnought with the Storm Cannon, the Claw, and the 2 Twin Cavaliers. Just so you know, right now, Steve, as well, the Drill generally performs better than the Claw. I did think the Claw was going to be better because it does give you an extra attack, but it really turns out that the Drill is just going to do a lot more damage because it averages 4 damage and it can do 6 damage against other vehicles. So the Drill averages more damage and it can do a lot more against vehicles, so the Drill is the better option here. The rest of this is fine. Storm Cannon is fine, I guess. I like to run mine with the Grav Flux, but I mean, a Storm Cannon, I guess it depends on what you want it to do, right? Storm Cannon's not going to kill vehicles, but it can do a lot of work against like 2 wound infantry. Grav Flux means that you can kill vehicles. So maybe this is more of a, if this Leviathan's more about clearing infantry, then I guess yes, this is the right loadout for that. But I tend to like to use my Leviathan as a bit of anti-armor. Gitley says Wiserator is a must for Master of Sanctity. I don't know what it is about Master of Sanctity and Wiserator, Gitley, in that see, when I have to cast my litanies on 2s, it's like I always pass. So I always cast 2 litanies and they always pass. See, when I have to cast litanies on 3s, they always fail. You wouldn't think it's much difference between 2s and 3s, but on the battlefield, to me, it feels like it's a big difference. Just gives you that much more reliability with the character, I feel like. Good afternoon, Alex. Thanks for tuning in. How you doing? So yeah, I feel like it does give you a lot more reliability if you want to. What am I trying to say? If you want to pick Wiserator, I think it's important to consider it for sure. Okay, and then we have a Sanguine Guard, and that's what you're meaning. So there's 2 Infernal Pistols in the Sanguine Guard, and then there's basically 8 guys, 5 swords, 3 axes, and 2 Infernal Pistols. I think that's fine. Generally, right now, I think 4 swords, 4 axes is sort of a good place to be, but you know, it is. It's not gonna make much difference if you have 1 less sword or you have a couple more axes. A double patrol should be better to be able to put 4 HQs and add the Sanguine Priest. A double patrol might be better here, but the problem I have with the double patrol toxic is if you're gonna run 5 characters, you really open yourself up for assassinate, right? I ran a list like this that had 5 characters in it, and the enemy picked assassinate, and it came back to hurt me pretty bad. So I like to run 4 maximum. It's good if your army is difficult to pick secondaries against, and if you've got 5 characters, especially like a few of these characters, like the company champion, he's only got toughness 4, he's only got 5 wounds. The captain, he's only got toughness 4, he's only got 5 wounds. The librarian probably has 4 wounds and no invulnerable save. So like, it might be better, but I wouldn't recommend taking 5 characters. It also feels like too many points in characters. Thank you so much, Alex. Yeah, we did just reach 5,000 subscribers this week, so that's pretty cool. Okay, and then we have a Terminator Assault Squad, and it's Thunderhammer and Storm Shield on the Sergeant, and then 2 more Thunderhammers and 2 more Lightning Claws. I actually kind of like mixing these squads like this. I think it gives you good versatility. Lightning Claws aren't even bad against enemy armor because of Red Thirst rule. They can do a bit of damage with their full rerolls on the wounds. So I like doing this with a Terminator squad, and that comes in at 200 points exactly, I guess, with this configuration. Okay, and then because there's a teleport homer. I was trying to think how it came up to 200. Yeah, and then 5 points for the teleport homer. I haven't seen a huge amount of value in the teleport homer. Is the teleport homer basically the same? Like I've run it once or twice. I've never actually used it, and then I stopped running Terminators because I prefer to run more mobile armies. But the teleport homer is basically exactly the same as Upon Wings of Fire, right? The stipulation is that upon Wings of Fire cost you 1 CP. But okay, there's a slight nuance in the wording here I'm looking at. But yeah, so Teleport Homer is basically Upon Wings of Fire, but you can't deep strike anywhere. You either need to return to your own deployment zone 9 inches from enemy models, or within 3 inches of chapter models and more than 9 inches of enemy models. So it's kind of like a slightly weaker version of Upon Wings of Fire, and it just costs 5 points. That's okay. And then finally we have the Whirlwind, that's the Castellan launcher. So this is a decent this is a decent battalion detachment. Starting on probably 8 CP, but I think I'd be happy to start on 7. So he's spending 1 for the Warlord trait down here. We've got the Blade of Triumph. We're spending 1 on the Benediction of Fury. I think this number is wrong then, because we've got 2. We've got Artificer Armor here as well, actually. So you've actually got 3 extra additional relics here. Which I don't think you can do in a 2,000 point game, right? Like, I think in 2,000 points you can just take 2 relics. I need to double check that. Relic of the Chapter. Each relic in your army must be unique, and it cannot use the stratagem to give any model 2 relics. You can only use the stratagem once unless you're playing Strike Force Battle, in which you can use the stratagem twice, or Onslaught Battle, in which you're using the stratagem 3 times. So 2,000 points is Strike Force. So you've got 1 too many relics in this list. Artificer Armor, Benediction of Fury, Blade of Triumph. 1 of them needs to go, and I guess this would need to say 2, and you need to spend -1 for your hero of the chapter, I think, on that Primaris biker, but you also have a hero of the chapter down here as well. So you've got two and two. So you're and then your Leviathan, yeah. So you'd actually be -5 if you did this. Okay. Yeah, and Mark confirming the same. Says the man running Blade Guard. Yeah, I mean I run Blade Guard, but it doesn't mean I don't like my list to be fast. The Blade Guard the Blade Guard are planned to sit in the middle of the map, Highland, and be survivable. You know, they're not what needs to be fast, I guess. Teleporter just needs to be within a certain range of allies. Yep. Our HQs are a big damage dealer and or made very survivable, so it fits your army. You can bait the opponent with assassinate and drag them around the board, so I think there's value in Toxic's idea. I mean, it depends on how engaged you need. If you're going to spend, like, what is this? You know, like 130 plus 125, so that's 250 plus another 140. You know, that's almost 400. And then this character, that's 470. If you're going to add a Sanguine Priest as well, you're then spending 600 points on characters. I don't think you can afford to have 600 points on characters baiting the opponent running around the board. You need those characters to be in key positions to be helping you gain points. So yeah, I mean, it's a question mark. I mean, you can run 5 characters. It just makes assassinate maybe a little bit easier as well. What am I miscounting? Because he has 1 free relic on his warlord, which I guess would be maybe Adamantium Mantle. And then he has Artificer Armor, Benediction of Fury, and Blade of Triumph. That is 3 additional relics, and you can only have 2. When it comes to an impulsor for assault vehicle rules, it says that if the unit disembarks, it can't charge if it makes a normal move. Does that mean I can charge if they remain stationary? Any advice? Yes, if a transport remains stationary and the units disembark, within 3 inches, the units can actually move, then charge, Kirk. You don't need to... Yeah, I mean, that's how it works coming out of a transport. I love my Blade Guard. Yeah, I mean, I've been painting Blade Guard the last few nights actually on stream. But I don't bring anything to make them more mobile. I just try and sit 4 of them in the middle of the board and score 10 points from Oath of Moment from them. So that's fine. All right, Steve, let's think about this. Your Phobos Librarian is an interesting choice, right? I mean, I guess he's helping you defend some of your Phobos units. I don't think Soul Sight is very powerful with infiltrators. You know, just infiltrators and incursors. Generally, their guns are AP 0, right? So, like, I don't think there's a huge amount of value in sort of AP 0 guns, even if you're going to buff them so that you're going to buff them so the enemy doesn't get a cover save and you can reroll the hits, but they're still AP 0 guns. So like Soul Sight, I don't see a huge advantage. Shrouding, maybe. And then we already mentioned about how we can improve the chaplain on the bike with the additional warlord trait. Hey, Fired Panda, welcome to the channel. The troop choices are decent. Infiltrators, Phobos units are the best troop choices we can do right now. Blade Guard in the middle of the board, maybe backed up with a company champion as well, is a very decent play. I think if I was going to drop something, I'd probably drop the Blade of Triumph, just because I don't think the company champion is all that survivable. Like, if the enemy gets something like a Dreadnought into the middle of the board, they'll kill him with like a single swing or a couple of swings of a Dreadnought weapon. And it's very easy for the enemy to get, if you're holding the middle of the board with Blade Guard, it's not like the Blade Guard are going to be able to shoot the Dreadnought away or anything. It's going to be able to just march into the middle. Mark says, I rate the Phobos Librarian, but not so much for Blood Angels list. I think he works better for other chapters for better synergies. And Tenebracious Curse would be my next choice. Yeah, I was going to say Tenebracious Curse is good against something like Necro and Catans, or even against like something like Mortarians. So the Phobos Librarian on his own You can have some value, and obviously he does get concealed positions, but I just wonder if a regular librarian is better here. I don't, two of your powers only benefit Phobos units. Actually, does Temporal Corridor only benefit Phobos units as well? Like, I think it was, right? Or yeah, so all your powers only benefit your Phobos units, and your Phobos units are arguably, they're not the strongest thing in this list. The strongest thing in this list will be like your Sanguine Guard, your Terminators, your Bolt, your Death Company. They're the ones that are going to do the most of the damage. So, I mean, for me, I use Phobos units every game, right? And a lot of the time, I just find my Phobos units are just going to sit on an objective and score me points, right? They're not gonna do a whole lot of fighting. They're not gonna shoot any units off the table. That's my thought around the Librarian and Phobos armor. I mean, it's a cool model. Maybe you can proxy him as a regular Librarian. And then the only other thing I guess to say is, like, you have a little bit of shooting here with your Leviathan, and it's definitely just shooting for like anti-infantry. So you've got no real anti-armor firepower at all, and I mean it can be fine. A lot of people like to run Blood Angels without so much anti-armor power, but if the armor is really well screened and you can't get to it, which is definitely a possibility, then maybe that's just something to think of as well. Okay, but yeah, I would probably. Yeah, I think. I guess the Whirlwind is in there as well to give you the suppression fire. Yeah, I just think in some matchups you're going to take a pounding from some sort of armor, and you're not going to be able to have anything that can return fire into that. And maybe that's fine. Some people obviously don't care about that and play Blood Angels very much 100% melee focused. I was struggling playing my list melee focused earlier in 9th edition. So I guess, like, if you look at the top lists from top players at the moment, a lot of them are including like Plasma Inceptors, Attack Bikes with Multi-Meltas, Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Just something that gives you that sort of anti-armor fight back. I do think it's important to have like 400 points of that in your list. And I mean, a Leviathan can do it to a certain extent if it has a Grav Flux. I think it's still going to be a little bit lacking, but like without the Grav Flux, then you're very much condemned, because the Storm Cannon is just strength 7. If you come up against other enemy armor, especially toughness 8 armor, your Storm Cannon is going to do literally nothing to it. So I guess that's just something to think about as well. I mean, maybe if you put a drill on here, but I mean, I guess he has to walk across the battlefield just like everybody else to get where he needs to be to use his drill. Okay. So let's let's go ahead and score Steve and see what we come up with. So we do have 3 Phobos units, and I do recommend Phobos, and I do say they are the strongest OBSEC stuff in the game. So I think with 3 Phobos units, we usually score at about a 9. This will let you sit on 3 objectives. This will let you guerrilla tactics them around. It's generally pretty useful. And then I guess next is like the ability to clear hordes. So, I mean, your Leviathan will clear a squad or 2 of things, like the 2 Volkites are heavy 8, the Storm Cannons heavy 8. I mean, the 2 Volkites together are going to give you heavy 8. So you're going to get 16 shots out of the Leviathan. You're going to get a decent amount of bolt shots out of the Sanguine Guard. I mean, I guess with the stratagem you have for Soul Sight, you're going to get some shots out of the Infiltrators, but I honestly can't see it providing much value. Might provide some value in some matchups, but overall, I feel like the value you're going to get here is rather low. So, anti-infantry horde, it's gonna come down to your Leviathan. which doesn't get the most shots. You know, like Leviathan essentially gets the same amount of shots, kind of as three Plasma Inceptors, and the Inceptors are quite a bit cheaper. So I'd probably say it's like a 7 against. Oh, it's probably a 7 for shooting, but I mean, you do have a decent amount of close combat stuff that you can get in. It's just going to be a bit of a waste if you have to kill your hordes with like Thunder Hammers from Assault Terminators or Thunder Hammers from Death Company, and Sanguine Guard definitely don't want to be fighting up into hordes. So that's something to consider. You know, maybe if you push forward with Phobos troops against horde units, you could do some rapid fire and stuff. So maybe it's an 8, but I guess we're going to leave it on 7.5. I feel like I would have liked to, or I feel like if it was my list, I would like a little bit more shooting. And it wouldn't have to be much. It would just have to be like one more squad of something. You know, like if you wanted to do it really cheaply, and maybe you could have like Inceptors with Hurricane Bolters. Like, is it Hurricane Bolters they have? Whatever, assault bolters, maybe they call them. I can't remember. But maybe it would be that, and maybe that would be better. You could probably do that by like dropping one troop squad and maybe like one Blade Guard veteran. It's a tough one. And then anti-vehicle and monsters. I mean, you've got a decent amount of Thunder Hammers. You have your captain with his 4 damage Thunder Hammer. Blade Guard can do okay against armor. The Leviathan for sure can do okay as well, you know, against armor and monsters if he gets in with his claw. The Sanguine Guard usually overkill stuff, especially with they're tied up with the Warlord with the +1 to hit, like you mentioned, and the rerolls. So I think it's got a decent number of 3 damage melee weapons, which I think is one of the things that we sort of look at now, because sometimes you have to face up against Death Guard and they have that -1 to all damage, which is generally quite annoying. And I guess you'd have potentially 2 4 damage weapons on your captain and your chaplain, the Thunder Hammer and the Benediction of Fury with Mantra of Strength. So against vehicles monsters, it's going to be like a 9 in terms of killing them. You might struggle depending on map positioning, because you don't have all that much to clear out units in front. You know. I mean, you've got something, so maybe it's enough, but I guess we'll have to see. And then after that, we're looking at mobility and specialization. So mobility for the list, I guess, is probably pretty good, right? Like the assault. I keep forgetting these are incursors. The incursors and the infiltrators, all good mobility-wise. Librarian Phobos armor isn't mobile. I guess your Terminators, once they deep strike in, aren't mobile. The Leviathan isn't mobile, but overall, I mean, it's still a very mobile list. I guess you could argue the Whirlwind isn't mobile as well, so something like an 8. And then specialization. Specialization, we usually penalize if the list is maybe too focused on a single aspect. This list is like right on the line, man. I think this list would be stronger if there was some way to get some more firepower into it. The thing that I keep thinking is attack bikes with multi-meltas. Attack bikes with multi-meltas are great because they obviously have the multi-melta for anti-armor shooting, but they also get like 12 bolter shots a turn as well, which is, I mean, they don't often kill stuff, right? But they do often put through a wound or two. So is there a way in this list we could get a couple of attack bikes with multi-meltas? Like I said, I don't think it would have to be too much. You know, if we drop, mind you, 2 attack bikes with multi-meltas are 110 points. So yeah, you could literally just drop an infiltrator squad, bring in 2 attack bikes with multi-meltas. I guess you'd have to change your detachments a bit, so you'd lose a couple of CP on the detachments. But yeah, I mean, we'll score you an 8.5, right? Which I think is fairly reasonable, which gives the list like a 42 out of 50. I wonder and I'm going to have to play a few more games to see, but my list that I'm running at the moment has one squad of OBSEC units, just one squad of infiltrators, and it's a very elite-based list. And I mean, we're winning games with that list. We're winning them fine. We're not worrying overly about OBSEC. So it does make me wonder if battalions are the way to go right now. I mean, this is about as solid a list you could make in a battalion. I mean, I guess in a battalion you would struggle because you have to include these 300 points of troop units. Yeah, I mean, maybe if you wanted to get the attack bikes in, you would have to drop a couple of Death Company Marines and like a Blade Guard veteran. It's not ideal. I mean, I guess play the list a couple of times, Steve. I always recommend people play the lists, and then let me know if you think that anything that I said would be useful, because my list is including 2 Redemptors and 3 attack bikes at the moment, and the Whirlwind. So that's actually probably maybe closer to like 600 points of shooting, and it feels like it's a really solid balance. So I guess like the Leviathan, you're kind of on your way there. You've got the Whirlwind as well, so maybe like a Leviathan and a couple of attack bikes would make this list work really well. Yeah, it's just if you want to include the Assault Intercessors and the Death Company Marines and the Sanguine Guard, it's a lot of points, right? And I guess something has to give, because between them they're about 705 points. So you'd have to give up something here within here, I think, unless you're willing to give up some command points and change it from a battalion to like a patrol and a vanguard or something like that. Hey Krychek, how you doing? So there's a list used by Glasshammer Gaming in a live game recently with no OBSEC whatsoever. I need to watch the video and see how it did. It was focused on just killing stuff really hard. Was that that was the Blood Angels list, right? And it had like I saw it where it was like they had 2 9-man squads of Death Company Intercessors, and then I think he had Firstborn Death Company in that list as well. Yeah, I don't know. I saw it as well, but I didn't actually watch the whole video yet. But maybe that would be an interesting one to watch. You know. Like I said, I'm only running one OBSEC unit, and like, does my list feel like it's weaker, or does it feel weak because of only one OBSEC? Like, honestly, I've not really had a problem with it, and I don't take Rites of War or Visage of Death or anything like that, you know? Albino says, can you disembark after moving the transport only before, if I read correctly? But yeah, the Terrax has some sort of custom rule where you can dismount the Terrax, I believe, after it arrives from Deep Strike, right? Maybe I should submit a list with the Terrax. Like, if you want to submit a list with the Terrax, for sure. We're actually fighting a Terrax tomorrow live on the channel. So the list we're playing tomorrow for Iron Hands has a Terrax in it. And the battle that we did last Saturday, against World Eaters also had a Terrax in it. And I think the Terrax is good, but I don't know if it's an interesting one, right? Like, if you've got a unit that could really benefit from being in the Terrax, then maybe it's good. But my lists just don't typically have that many units that need to have transports, right? Like, we usually do jump marines. I mean, I guess you could put Terminators in the Terrax, but it's probably a bit of a waste considering the Terminators can teleport strike in as well. So Gitley scored this list as a 41. Thanks, Gitley. Sometimes we put in community scores here as well, if people ever want to score the list as we're going through. But yeah, okay, Steve. Thanks for the list. Hopefully we gave you some suggestions. I watched the Glasshammer Battle Rep last night. I was not a fan of the list. Yeah, I looked at the list and wasn't a fan of it either. But how did it do then? Gitley, did it win? Because it had no OBSEC at all, right? Cool. So, thanks for the list, Steve. Yeah, honestly, Steve, you need to play, like I say on the stream, play the list. And try and, once you're playing it, sort of think about what I said. Like, Are you seeing great value in those Phobos only psychic powers? I mean, maybe you said that you did the other night. Uh, are you coming up against any lists that have a lot of armor in them, and you can't get to the armor because there's too much chaff in the way, and you don't have enough to shoot out either the armor? You know, I guess the idea when you're making a list is to try and make a list that is like all. What am I trying to say? It's like it covers everything, right? Like for example, the list that I'm playing on streams now is the same list that I've been playing the last 6 games in a row, and I'm playing the same list again tomorrow. So I'm trying to make a list that's going to do decent against everything. And yeah, I'm 6 games in with that list, and I guess I'm 6 wins in with that list. So we'll continue. You know, like, I get people really like to play Blood Angels as 100% close combat, but I don't think it's the strongest option for us right now. All right, moving on to Tom next, and let me just update the thing. And yeah, so at the end of the stream, I'll post all the lists into the video description after the stream ends. So if anyone wants to grab any of the lists after the stream, they can do that. It just takes like half an hour for the comments to appear. And then, yeah, I should have said at the beginning of the stream, we are going to be live again tomorrow. Tomorrow is Blood Angels against Iron Hands, and the Iron Hands player is bringing a super heavy tank tomorrow, so that should be an interesting game. Okay, Tom says, here's my most up-to-date list. If you go over it, I can drop one of the HQ units and drum up the points to put in the Vindicator Laser Destroyer back in. I'm waiting to see your comparison video for it. Okay. Vindicator Laser Destroyer comparison video coming this Friday. I promise that we're not going to do anything else. We're going to do Vindicator Laser Destroyer on Friday. And yes, it's a 6-game win streak. It'll actually be 7 tomorrow once I beat Andrew's Iron Hands. I'm feeling confident about it, but I guess we'll see. And then the week after that is going to be, we're going to play Eldar. I think the week after that we're going to play Necrons, I think. So we're going to basically have 9 games against 9 different armies, and hopefully we'll have 9 wins. The list is set up for the Librarian to run around with the Sanguine Guard, so Null Zone won't interfere with the Vanguard veterans. Okay. And I think Inexorable Advance, I guess, is the name of the list that he's given it within the Games Workshop app. So we start off with the Librarian Dreadnought with the Meltagun, Quickening, and Winds of Sanguinius, very standard. We then have the Sanguine Priest with a jump pack, Chief Apothecary, Stealthless Healer, Icon of the Angel, again, very standard. Elites, we have a Leviathan Dreadnought with a Siege Drill, the Meltagun, the Twin Volkite Cavalier, and I guess the Grav Flux, because it hasn't mentioned the Grav Flux, so the Grav Flux is free. And Games Workshop app is annoyingly... The Games Workshop app annoyingly doesn't state things that are free sometimes, so it will be, I think, the Grav Flux Cannon, or the Grav Flux Bombard. Then it's the Redemptor Dreadnought, 2 Stormbolters, Rocket Pods, Macro Cannon, and the Onslaught Gatling. We then have Sanguine Guard, and it's 8-man. I guess mostly swords, couple of axes, 2 fists, and an Infernal Pistol. And I think, I've been saying now for a little while that I think fists on Sanguine Guard are a waste. I think it's wasted points, because you typically the way I see fists is, with the fist, you get +1 to your wound roll, usually, because you're strength 8, right? And if you think about, if you use an example like Sanguine Guard, right? I fought against Death Guard this week, right? And I was playing against a Plague Burst Crawler. So the Plague Burst Crawler is toughness 8. So when my Sanguine Guard, we're hitting it on the charge, we're wounding on 4s, right? Because we're strength 5 and strength 6 with axes or swords. So if we were hitting it with the Power Fists, we'd be wounding on 3s. Now, the difference is the Sanguine Guard will hit on 2s, for example, with the swords and axes, and then they would have to take the -1 to hit on the Power Fists. So I guess there's some value in, if you have your Warlord around the Sanguine Guard, they can get the +1, which can kind of negate the Power Fists. But if you're not going to run your Sanguine Guard near your Warlord, then I think Power Fists are wasted points. The extra +1 you're going to get to wound is going to be nullified by the fact you're an extra -1 to hit. So it's kind of going to balance things out. And Do you know what? Annoyingly, I have a lot of Sanguine Guard with Power Fists fully painted in my cupboard, but they just don't find the tabletop. It's just, I honestly think it's a bit of wasted points. Maybe things will change around again, but right now, I mean, they're fine. It's not the hugest issue, right? If you have Chapter Master rerolls, then I guess maybe the Power Fists are a little bit better. I used to like the Power Fists a lot last edition when the Sanguine Priest gave the +1 Strength aura, because then you were Strength 9 and you were wounding everything on 2s pretty much. But in ninth edition, not so sure about the Power Fists. Anyway, it's 2 8-man Sanguine Guards, couple of Power Fists, couple of axes, mainly swords, and an Infernal Pistol. And then it's one large Vanguard Veteran squad. One has double Lightning Claw, 8 have Lightning Claw and Storm Shields, and then Sergeant has Infernal Pistol and Lightning Claw. So pretty heavy commitment on these Vanguard veterans. They will do a lot of work. They're very survivable. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess the advantage of running the 10-man squad is that he can combat squad them at the start of the game. That's probably what I would do, is combat squad them. I don't know if I feel like I need 10 men. Like I ran a 5-man squad this week into, like, I think it was a 6-man squad of Plague Marines, and I killed like 4.5 of them or something. And I think that was turn 2 before Savage Echoes kicked in. So if Savage Echoes was on in turn 3, a 5-man squad is pretty much going to wipe like a 6-man squad of toughness 5, 2 wound infantry. But I mean, it's not, the loadout is great. I'm just not sure we need a 10-man squad all the time, but yeah, there's a lot you can do with that, I guess. I hope everyone drank their shots. Win streak and super heavy tanks. Yes, get some shots ready tomorrow night for when Andrew's super heavy tank blows up Tony, because I guess we'll see. 2 damage against Death Guard is just painful. Yeah, I mean, Sanguine Guard are nerfed against Death Guard big time. That's why maybe it's one of the reasons that I only run one squad of Sanguine Guard. Like I said, I have a lot of models that I just aren't using at the moment. So yeah, if you're wanting to build an all-round list, then you know, if you're going to spend 510 points like we have done here on Sanguine Guard, and to know that their damage is just going to be literally halved, it's a very difficult pill to swallow, right? It's pretty nasty. They then have the Whirlwind Castellan Launcher as well. Then we have a Patrol Detachment. What was this first detachment? The Vanguard, sorry. So Patrol Detachment, the Warlord should be in here. Where's the Warlord? The Games Workshop app doesn't tell you who the Warlord is. Well, I assume the Warlord needs to be in this detachment. And it is a captain on a bike with a Storm Shield. He has the Imperium Sword. He has the Teeth of Terra. I would honestly give him Gift of Foresight, just to make him more survivable. I think that's going to give more value than the Imperium Sword. I mean, I guess if you're... Yeah, it's going to be difficult. I guess if you're up against a lot of Toughness 5 enemies, the Imperium Sword's going to have more value, but Gift of Foresight's going to make him a lot more survivable, I guess. Just that one free reroll save every turn is pretty huge. We then have our Librarian with a Force Sword and a Jump Pack, who has the Rights of War Aura to grant Obsec. He has the Shield of Sanguinius, he has Unleash Rage, he has Null Zone, which he's been given by the Tomb of Malkador. And then we have an Infiltrator squad in this detachment. So we're spending 2 Heroes of the Chapter, 2 Relics of the Chapter. We're then spending... We're then spending 3 more on the Vanguard attachment. So we've spent 7 CP before the game starts. Librarian is the Warlord. Oh, Librarian down here. Oh, okay, sorry, Warlord, thank you. Librarian is the Warlord. Right. Yeah, I guess so you can get the free relics, etc. I mean, it could have been the captain. I guess the Librarian with the Warlord, I guess, is so that the Librarian can jump with the Sanguine Guard and get that +1 to hit that we were talking about. Okay. So it's Captain on a bike, Librarian, Librarian Dreadnought, Sanguine Priest. This is actually a really strong 4 HQ choice, and this is pretty much the HQ choice that I was thinking of moving to, because at the moment I'm running Captain on a Bike, Sanguine Priest, Librarian and Terminator Armor, and the Death Company Captain on the Bike. But I was thinking this is better. This Librarian Dreadnought and the other Librarian basically give you 2 denies every turn. I guess you can get 2 smites every turn, and both Psychers are pretty mobile. One with the jump pack, one with the wings. The Sanguine Priest is obvious. Everybody runs the Sanguine Priest. He's too good to ignore, really. And then the Chapter Master on the bike. It's just a Captain on a bike, not a Chapter Master on a bike. Chapter Master with Captain on a bike with the Teeth of Terror gets a lot of attacks. I think it's 10 attacks he gets. With Imperium Sword, he's strength 6. It's a flat 2 damage. He's just going to shred through infantry. I want to try an 8 to 10 man squad of Assault Terminators one day. I tried 7, and it was pretty good, Kirk. But it's a lot of points, and the Terminators aren't mobile once you drop them down, so they feel pretty slow if you try and move them from one objective to another after they killed what you dropped them in to kill, right? I'm less of a fan of Double Librarian. Maybe. The reason that I like the Librarian Dreadnought a lot is because he has a lot of attacks base. Like, I think it's, once you're in Savage Echoes, it's 7 attacks base, and with Quickening he can just boost that to 10 attacks, and basically he's wounding everything on 2s for a flat 3 damage with 9 attacks, and one attack is D3 plus 3. I think it's pretty great. So this list is quite similar to what I have. He's got more Vanguard veterans, and he's got another squad of Sanguine Guard. I guess I have Blade Guard to hold the middle. I have Centurions, and I have attack bikes with multi-meltas. But two very decent shooting dreadnoughts to try and provide space and cover on the map. We also have the Whirlwind to prevent any Overwatch or enemy aggression via the suppression fire, and then we have like our 3 big jump squads that can do a lot of work if they get in, and 1 squad of infiltrators to hold backfield or protect the Whirlwind or guerrilla tactics around and do objectives, something like that. So this is a pretty cool list. Mark says, I agree the extra 5 points per fist isn't worth it in most situations for Blood Angels. Yeah, I'm not sure what you could do with 20 extra points. 20 extra points may be actually out. If this was me and I had 20 extra points, I'd drop the Teeth of Terra. I would make this the Hammer of Baal. So the Teeth of Terra, he's going to get 10 attacks. The Hammer of Baal, he's going to get 7, I think. Let me check. Captain on a bike, or is it going to be 6? Well, it'd be 7 if you kept Imperium Sword, but 6 if you went. Yeah, I would. If I had 20 more points, like drop these 4 power fists. I would take the Hammer of Baal, and I would take Gift of Foresight instead. And then you've got the very survivable Captain with a flat 3 damage weapon, and he can get up and go anywhere he needs to go and do a lot of damage. Because this list actually, it has the Librarian Dreadnought with a 3 damage weapon, and it has, I guess, the Gravflux and the Leviathans with 3 damage weapons, but it does have a lot of Sanguine Guard that are going to, like I said, they're going to struggle up against Death Guard. All their damage is going to be half. They're going to struggle up against Dreadnoughts as well, so all their damage is going to be halved. The -1 damage army-wide is so brutal. It really makes me think twice about running 2 squads of Sanguine Guard. Like, I like this 1 big squad of Vanguard veterans with Lightning Claws. Personally, I might even be more happy to run 2 big squads of Vanguard veterans with Lightning Claws. I do not have that many Lightning Claw Vanguard veteran models, but I think I might be more happy with that than 2 squads of Sanguine Guard. The Lightning Claws generally do great because of the rerolls to wound and the Red Thirst roll. And they are -3 once we get to Savage Echoes, so they still wreck up, and the sheer number of saves people need to take from them is pretty scary as well. I mean, 5 Vanguard veterans will get more attacks with lightning claws than Sanguine Guard will get with their swords, right? So they're more survivable because of the 4+ invulnerable save, and I guess something like Death Guard, they're literally going to get more attacks as well. Sure, it's going to be 1 harder to roll the wound roll, but the fact that you're going to get those rerolls is actually going to leave you in a better position as well. I think, like, if we compare swords against lightning claws against like Death Guard, who are the real problem army to fight up against, your Vanguard veterans they're going to be more survivable, they're going to be cheaper, and then they're going to actually do more damage in close combat. Yes, they're not going to have the bolters, but like, do the Angelus bolters, do they do a ton of work? Usually they scrape away a wound or two, right? It's not super amazing. So let's get in and score Tom's list. And we're going to start with OBSEC. So Tom, like me, has 1 squad of infiltrators. However, he does have Rights of War aura. So I think it's probably like a 7. I think if I had to score myself, I'd probably give myself 6.5 or something for OBSEC, because we don't have barely any of it. Anti-Horde effectiveness. I mean, there's 2 Dreadnoughts here. So that's better than the last list. We can shoot out a decent amount of stuff with the Dreadnoughts. There's also a lot of Sanguine Guard bolters here as well, so they can do a bit of work too. We still have the Whirlwind. So I'd probably say like Anti-Horde is maybe an 8.5, something like that. A Leviathan and a Redemptor together I usually feel is pretty strong. It's a good amount of firepower coming out. And the one reason that maybe Redemptor is a little bit better... do you know what? The Redemptor is going to do a little bit more damage, but it's going to be less survivable. So I guess it depends. This is one of the reasons that I love the Chapter Master upgrade so much, because you can throw your Chapter Master rerolls on the Redemptor and then you can zoom off, right? A Master Librarian plus the Malkador's book is 4 powers. Yes, that's correct. Chief Librarian plus Malkador is 4 powers. This isn't a Chief Librarian here, though, however. Okay, my list is coming up in a week or two, and it's 10 Vanguard Vets and 10 Assault Terminators, so we'll see, says Matt. Okay, nice, Matt. I like seeing different lists. It's part of the fun, right? So how's this list going to do against armor and monsters? I mean, Librarian and Dreadnought is going to do work. The Redemptor and Leviathan can do work. The Sanguine Guard can do a bit of work, but they might struggle against the Death Guard. The Vanguard Vets can get involved there. The Captain can get involved there. I really do think the Captain would be better with Hammer of Baal and Gift of Foresight, but that's just me personally. I still think with Hammer of Baal and Gift of Foresight, he still does. If you want to use him to kill infantry, he still does that. Maybe not quite as well as the Teeth of Terror, but he still does it to a very high level, right? Like you'd be hitting infantry on 2s, you'd be wounding infantry on 2s. You get to reroll 1 hit and 1 wound, and then they're on like -3 and a flat 3 damage. So even if you're up against infantry that has some sort of feel no pain, you're still gonna very effectively kill infantry, and then that's going to give you more in your anti-vehicle monster effectiveness. I think anti-vehicle monster effectiveness for this list is probably sitting on something like an 8.5 or a 9. We'll probably give it a 9, but like against Death Guard, it's probably going to be more like an 8. But I mean, it's impossible for me to score that like that in my graph. 2 over 10 men of Sanguine Guard now is going to be risky if you come up against Death Guard. I mean, they're going to be, your Sanguine Guard are going to be toughness 3 as well, remember, when you charge in as well. So they're going to generally take a lot of damage in return as well if they don't make the kill, and it's going to be that much harder for them to make the kill with the -1 damage. Mobility is generally pretty good. Probably just a little bit worse than the last list as well. So probably like a 7.5, maybe do you know what, it's maybe an 8. I'm thinking this one is actually maybe a little bit better than my list. I think my list would actually be even more. So I think my list actually scores really badly on OBSEC and mobility. And then specialization, I I like this a lot. I really like the character choices. I really like the Leviathan and the Redemptor. I do think that one squad of Sanguine Guard could be reworked to give some more value. And I guess in my list, it's Blade Guards and Centurions that replace this one squad of Sanguine Guard. In other lists, maybe people run another, like a Death Company with Thunderhammers to give yourself some 3 damage weapons so that you can deal with that -1 damage aura and stuff. So Specialization, I guess, is similar in that maybe it's a little bit too focused on Sanguine Guard, but overall, I think it's pretty good. Yeah, maybe it's an 8.5, but again, it might be a little bit lower against the Death Guard. And but I mean, here's the problem with my scoring, and I guess we're just starting to see it now in that, like, OBSEC is maybe not as important as it once was for Blood Angels, right? If we can be very mobile, if we can be killing the enemy on the objectives every turn with our units and our deep strikers and some sort of form of shooting, then maybe OBSEC is becoming less valuable. Because I think if after a few more games, I was planning to do a video on my list, and my list is not going to score well in mobility or OBSEC, but it's going to win a lot of games in a row. So it's going to be tough. So I guess, again, Tom, play the list, see how you get on. If we were going to make some changes, I think it just needs to be that one squad of Sanguine Guard. I don't have a problem with anything else that you've done. And maybe the captain on the bike could be made a little bit better, and maybe we just combat squad the Vanguard veterans when the game starts. And Gitley scored this list is 40.5, so he's being a little bit harsher than me today, but overall pretty similar. I feel like this list is missing a strong Primaris unit, so it really can't use Transhuman. Would it be great with Blade Guard or something? Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big advantages of holding the middle of the board with the Blade Guard and Transhuman. It generally seems to be working very well, and it has super good synergy with Oath of Moment, right? It's very easy to max your points with Oath of Moment if you have Blade Guard veterans in the middle of the board. Perhaps your categories need a weighting, then score it across the final score. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I need to play more games against really OBSEC heavy armies, and I guess that's why I was going to try and arrange a game against Necrons for the channel pretty soon to see how my list with basically one single unit that is OBSEC goes against like a crazy heavy OBSEC Death Guard list. I think Tom's list will win games. I think it's pretty good, but yeah, I guess, and he's actually put more OBSEC into his list than me as well, right? Because he's running the Rights of War Warlord trait to give OBSEC to nearby units. So I guess like the Sanguine, like maybe that's harsh. Maybe it should be a 7.5, because if that Warlord Librarian is there with all those Sanguine Guard, then maybe he can actually grant like a lot of OBSEC to a single objective around the Librarian. But yeah, I'm not running that at all. I'm just all about killing the opponent in the objectives and seeing how that goes for me. Objective holding does not equal OBSEC necessarily, but it does not mean that OBSEC is useless or a bad thing in a list. It's far from it. Yeah, I guess that's why it's both, right? It's just a little bit difficult to see. Okay, so moving on to list number 3 for today, and that list is from Solos 1999. Oh, not 1999, sorry, 1994. I think I was thinking of the song "We're Gonna Party Like It's 1999." That's a very old song, right? I'd be interested to see how it follows through as more and more venues and tournaments, both small and large, restart. Yeah, I guess we'll see how a list with very little OBSEC goes as more tournament play starts coming around, right? Okay, so this is Solus's list, and it is a battalion detachment, and it does start with 11 CP, which is a lot, I guess. And we're actually going to start with an Inquisitor, who has dominate mental interrogation, a combi melta. He's the Ordos Minoris. He's a psyker, and he has a Thunderhammer. I am going to have to Google this a little bit because I do not often run Inquisitors. So let's just check what an Inquisitor has and what his Ordos thing is as well. How do I get the Inquisition keywords? Okay, so Domination is a psychic power with a charge of 6. You roll against enemy leadership. Oh, right, and you can... Yeah, this is the one where you take control of the enemy units. So you can take control of an enemy unit and you can immediately make a shooting attack or make an attack as if it were the fight phase. Alright, so that's Dominate. If you roll over their leadership with 3d6. Mental Interrogation is select one enemy character until the start of your next psychic phase. When resolving an attack made by that enemy model, subtract 1 from the hit roll. Roll 3d6. If the result is greater to the enemy's leadership, you gain command points. So interesting. An Inquisitor designed to gain some command points and also maybe make a random enemy attack themselves. He also is the Ordos Minoris. I remember that these guys have some sort of special. Maybe it's actually on this other sheet. I think it's here. Ordos Minoris. When resolving an attack made by a model in a unit against a character unit, you can reroll a hit and you can reroll the wounds. Alright, so he is Inquisitor, who's sort of like standard 3+ weapon and ballistic skill. He does have a Thunderhammer. You can reroll hits and wounds against characters. He also has a Combi Melta, and he is the Alpha class Psyker. I think that's a Warlord trait. I'm not entirely sure what that is actually. Alpha class Psyker. Use a stratagem before the battle. Select one Psyker model. This model knows one additional... Okay, so it just knows an additional power and can attempt to deny one additional power as well. So what does he normally... he can normally cast 1 and deny 1. So wow, okay, so he casts 2, deny 2. Oh, but you can only use this stratagem once. Oh, right, so yeah, you can only have one Inquisitor upgraded like this. So it's a pretty interesting character for 60 points. I mean, he's not survivable with his toughness 4 and his 4+ wounds, but I guess used correctly, there is some really interesting Inquisition characters. And this one's going to basically let you farm up some CP every turn, assuming you can see enemy characters. And you're going to be able to make some of their models attack their own stuff. And what's the stipulation on that? It was just like... I think it's non-vehicle models, right? Yeah, so non-vehicle models, if you roll over their leadership after you've passed your work charge value, they can... So if the enemy had like Mortarion stood next to their Demon Prince, you could just suddenly have Mortarion do an attack on the Demon Prince if you can roll over its leadership on 3d6, which I guess against like a strong unit that has leadership 9 is about a 50-50 chance, right? So okay, interesting. So we start with an Inquisition character. We don't see that very often, but I do know there are some pretty strong Inquisition characters, and this is an interesting one. Adam says dead men claim no objectives. I really like that as a motto. That's that thing from that Pirates of the Caribbean movie, right? Dead men tell no tales. I love it. Dead men claim no objectives. That's what we'll say in the future when people ask us why we only have one OBSEC unit. Alright, so we have a captain in Gravis Armor, who is the chapter master. I'm guessing this is the Gravis Armor with the Bolt Storm and the Mastercrafted Power Sword. You know, this is the captain from Dark Imperium, I think. We then have Librarian Dreadnought, Shields of Sanguinius, Wings of Sanguinius, and he's the Chief Librarian. I guess as Chief Librarian he gets to take 1 more power. I assume he's taking a Quickening as his other power. I mean, I guess he could take Unleash Rage, but it seems strange to take Wings and Shield. I guess maybe he's shielding himself. That could be a thing. There's a cap on how many CP you can gain per turn. Is there, Mark? Because I am definitely not aware of how many CP you can gain per turn. I guess I don't run anything that lets me gain CP per turn. But yeah, whereabout in the rulebook is that? Because I need to double refresh my memory on that. Then he has the Primaris Tech Marine, who is the Soul Warden. And the Soul Warden is the one where the Tech Marine's been upgraded to give a Dreadnought an additional attack, right? Let me double check. Soul Warden. Oh, no, it's not. Soul Warden is the 5+. It's the Blood Angel stratagem for 5+ Feel No Pain against Psychic in a bubble around him, maybe like 6 inches. Strange choice for the Tech Marine, but while a friendly Blood Angel's model is within 6, each time that model would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound on a... I mean, unless he's trying to Soul Warden around the Librarian Dreadnought so it can deal with psychic powers. The Primaris Tech Marine also has Artificer Armor, which is definitely feels like a waste because Tech Marines already save on 2+. So all this is doing is adding a 5+ invulnerable save. And he's the Master of the Forge and he's the Warlord. I don't like this Artificer Armor pick at all. But I guess let's go through the rest of the list and see what else we've got. We've got 10 Assault Intercessors, and these are all Chainsword guys. We have a tactical squad with just 5 men, 2 of them. I guess these are just to round out the battalion, so they don't actually bring a huge amount of value to the tabletop. We then have a Death Company Dreadnought with a Heavy Flamer, Macro Grapple, Meltagun, and a pair of Blood Talons. We have an Ironclad Dreadnought with Hunter Killer Missiles, Hurricane Bolter, Meltagun, and the Seismic Hammer. We have a Primaris Apothecary. We then have a very small 4-man Sanguine Guard, Swords, and Axes. We have a Venerable Dread with twin las cannons and the combat weapon. We have a Baal Predator with a Baal Flamestrong cannon. And then 2 heavy flamers, and then we have the Centurion Devastator squad, Hurricane Bolters, 2 heavy bolters, Hurricane Bolters on the Sergeant, 2 heavy bolters. I need to look up the Centurion Devastator squad real quick because I don't run the Centurion Devastators. I don't really think nearly anybody, I don't think anyone submitted a list with Centurion Devastator squads actually yet. So this is maybe a first. I mean, I am running Assault Centurions, but where's Centurion Devastators? Do they come... Are they in heavy support? Yeah, I imagine they'd be in heavy support, right? Centurion Devastator squads. Here we go. Every model is equipped with a Grav Cannon and Hurricane Bolter. Any number of models may have their Hurricane Bolter replaced with a missile launcher. Any number of models may have their Grav Cannon replaced with 2 heavy bolters and 2 las cannons. So it's Hurricane Bolter and heavy bolter Devastator Centurions. I'm not sure I see a huge value in those either. So we get 6 heavy bolters and like 6 hurricane bolters. How many points are they? It's annoying that the Games Workshop app doesn't put the points of stuff like in here. Like put in the points, Games Workshop, right? It makes it much more difficult when you're coming back. So there's 70 points per model plus 15 for the heavy bolters. Holy shit. So these guys they're 100 points per model. No way. Is that right? You cannot gain or refund more than 1 CP per battle round. Exceptions to this are the 1 CP you get for free at the start of a battle round and any CP gained via stratagems. Yeah, that's right. I just don't have anything that's CP farms, so yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah, because once you've gained 1 CP in the battle round, you stop rolling, don't you? For am I reading this right? Centurion Devastators are 100 points per model. That is nuts. I mean, I thought my Centurions, the Assault ones at 55 points per model were as expensive. Devastator Centurions are surely unfieldable now that they don't have the core keyword. They don't even have that many shots. Like, you're gonna get what, 18 heavy bolter shots and 18 hurricane bolters. If you were within half range, I guess you would get another 18 Hurricane Bolters. But at 36 inches, you're just going to have 18 Heavy Bolters. You're only hitting on 3s, so you get 24 hits. Do you know what? Let me just think about this for a second. So you get 36 Hurricane Bolters. So you hit on 3s, so you get 24 hits. Let's say we're shooting at just some sort of like Intercessor squad. So you're shooting an Intercessor squad, you've got 24 hits. You're going to wound on 3s, so you end up with 16 wounds. They're going to save on 4s because heavy bolters are only -1. So essentially, they're going to kill 8 Intercessors a turn. 8 Intercessors a turn for a squad that's 300 points. And it's 100 points per model. I'm not a fan of that at all. Yeah, I don't know. I because Centurions are new to Blood Angels, people have typically not been running them. I think one other person's. Yeah, each Centurion has 2 Heavy Bolters, right? And it says Heavy Bolters are 15 points each, and then it's 70 points for the model. That's why I'm thinking it's 100 points per Centurion Devastator, right? Is that right? But yeah, I don't think that's competitive at all. Especially because they're not core, so there's no way to like boost them. 2 Centurion Devastators cost more than a Redemptor Dreadnought, to put that into perspective. Yeah, I mean, so you're basically saying like 12 Heavy Bolter shots. No, sorry. Yeah, 12 Heavy Bolter shots against all the Redemptor's guns, and the Redemptor's cheaper. So you get the Heavy 8 from the Onslaught Cannon, you get the D6 from the Plasma Cannon, you get the D3 from the Rocket Pods, and you get potentially 8. Well, ignore the Storm Bolters because Centurions have Hurricane Bolters. I guess maybe in some situations at close range, the Centurions can kick out a lot of firepower, but at 100 points per model, at least I've been running Centurions, the Assault version of them, and at 55 points per model, I feel they're really expensive when they die. Like, it really hurts. I mean, they do survive a bit, but it really hurts when they die. So at 100 points per model, no way. I don't think that's really an option for us. I think the real power comes from the Centurions is if they did have las cannons on them, or even the grav cannons are actually okay, right? Because they're heavy 4, and against models with 3 up or better save, they do a flat 2 damage. I mean, maybe you could run 3 with the grav cannons. I read it as 85 points per Centurion, not for the bolter. You're saying Heavy Bolter, but it's a Hurricane Bolter, which is free. So 75 plus 50. Yeah, but he's got these Centurions armed with the Heavy Bolters. Oh, the grav cannons are 15 as well. Okay, yeah, so the grav cannon models are 100 points as well. You have to pay for both weapons, Adam. So yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know. So we've got, anyway, let's look at the list. So we've got the Centurions that can deal some firepower but don't feel superly competitive. The Assault Centurions at 55 points are a steal against these guys, honestly. It's making me wonder if they're actually 55 points and I've been playing the Assault Centurions right. Elites, Assault Centurions. Centurion Assault Squad, yeah, 55 points per model if you have the flamers on them in the drills. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can heal the Centurions, sure, but you're going to have to babysit them with it. I mean, he's got the Primaris Apothecary, so maybe he's going to babysit the Centurions the whole game. We then have a Venerable Dreadnought, we have 2 melee Dreadnoughts, we have a Baal with flamers. I don't think Baals are really competitive right now either, unfortunately. The The problem I have with the Ball Predator is it's so swingy, right? Like, I think they changed the Flamestorm cannon, so it got more range. I think it went up from 12 inches to 18 inches, the Flamestorm, but the problem I still have with the Flamestorm cannon is it's 2d6 shots, right? Ball Flamestorm cannon. Sorry, it's only d6 shots. Alright, it's even shitter than I thought it was. I thought it was 2d6 shots, and I was going to say it's too swingy at 2d6 shots. At 1d6 shots, it's actually kind of tragic. So yeah, the problem with the Ball Predator, and it's really weird that they made the main cannon 18 inches when your side flamers are still 12 inches. So it's still limited in the fact that, like, it's got to get in with 12 inches. Yeah, of course you can. Sorry, thanks for pointing that out, guilty. It's really swingy, and it still has a problem where, like, half of its weapons are only 12 inches, and yeah. So, and then tactical marines aren't great right now at all. Like, I generally tell people, like, not to run tactical marines. There's a Ball Predator in your list. Well, I mean, I guess maybe we'll see if it's got synergy, Matt. For me, it just, I don't know. I think the cost of a Ball Predator right now, let me double check this. Ball Predator is like 120 points, right? And then you add on the 2 heavy flamers, that's 150 points. So if you think about a Ball Predator at 150 points, and you compare that to, like, a Redemptor Dreadnought at 175 points if you have a flamer on it, the Redemptor Dreadnought will eat the Ball Predator alive, and the Ball Predator will not even scratch it. I feel like, based on that, I don't think I see a huge amount of value in the Ball Predator. The Sanguine Guard squad seems really small. Like, I don't know what you really achieve with a 4-man Sanguine Guard. I assume not much. 7 or 8 seems like the ideal number for Sanguine Guard. Captain and Gravis armor. Like, I generally like our captains to be more mobile, like with a jump pack or on a bike. Tech Marine, I did say that I did think that there was a problem with the Artificer armor on here as well. So, I mean, Solus, I think, I'm not sure how new he is to the hobby, but I think that this list is definitely average, I guess, is the way to put it, right? Tactical squads are not great right now. Small unit of Sanguine Guard is probably not going to accomplish what you want it to do. Centurions feel overcosted. Ball Predators, there's definitely better choices. Redemptor Dreadnought is the first one that springs to mind. I like Centurions, but 9th edition has not been kind to them. I run Centurions in my 9th edition list, Kirk, but Assault Centurions. So, yeah, I mean, I have been finding value in my Assault Centurions, but I kind of just started running them out of fun more than anything, and we started winning games with them. So it's but you know, they're 55 points a model, which is feasible. Whereas, like, because if you think about Assault Centurion versus a Sanguine Guard, right, it's got +1 toughness and it's got +2 wounds, and it's about double the cost. Not quite double the cost. Like, I'd say, like, what, 80% of the cost more. So, I mean, in some ways that kind of makes sense, but, like, these Devastator ones are really expensive. Tactical squads have good value in points per wounds, yes, but their guns don't do any damage, literally. AP0 guns in the current edition they just don't feel worth it, you know? So tactical squad, maybe, you know, rapid firing, it's AP0 guns, you're going to take off a wound or something, and then when they actually do get charged, they only have 1 attack. So they're bad in close combat. They're bad at shooting. I guess this is why, like, I would always recommend you just pay the extra points and take some Phobos units if you're going to take troop choices. So let's score the list, and yeah, I mean, like it feels like every unit that we've highlighted there, the Ball, the Centurions, the Tacticals, I'd probably drop them. I'd probably look like even our Captain and Gravis armor. Like I'd look for. I'd go. I did a video recently on the top 10 units that you can play as or pick as Blood Angels. So I'd probably go watch that top 10 video and try and start switching some of these things out. If you want heavy support right now, Redemptor Dreadnoughts, Eradicators, Attack Bikes and Multi-Meltas, I think are much more cost effective and better options than the Centurions. And I think troop wise, we definitely need to see like one unit of Phobos in here as well. Tacticals really don't bring much to the table. They're kind of going to be, Mark's saying that they're good. They have a good amount of wounds for the points, but they're not going to do much in the battlefield. They're gonna hide in objectives, and they're not really going to kill anything. And it's 200 points you're going to spend, or what's the tactical score at the moment? 90 points. You're going to spend 180 points on models that do nothing but sit on objectives. I mean, there's better ways you could do that, and actually also bring some value. And then another thing to say is this list has no way of like dealing with fight last rules. Like a lot the other two lists we looked at today already had the Whirlwind to deal with the Overwatch and fight last, whereas this doesn't have that either. So okay, I guess let's go ahead and score. So Solus, objective holding, we do have 3 OBSEC units. So I guess because we have 3 OBSEC units, we'll go with an 8. But it's definitely not the best. This is the kind of list that someone who's back into 40k, yeah, I'd think so, or a newer player who hasn't played a lot of competitive games. I think as a fun list against your friends, this might be okay, but at high level tier, it's not going to be super effective. How's it going to do against infantry? I mean, it's actually going to do great against infantry, right? Because it's got shitloads of hurricane bolters, heavy bolters, flamestorm cannons, another hurricane bolter here, another flamer here, 10 assault intercessors. So I guess against like horde lists, I guess it's actually going to probably do pretty decent. It's probably got more firepower than the lists we looked at earlier today. Up against monsters again, it's possibly going to do pretty decent. I mean, there's a bunch of Dreadnought combat weapons in here. There's 3 of them. The Sanguine Guard aren't going to do too much. The Captain's probably not going to be mobile to do all that much. Librarian, I mean, maybe if he had quickening, then he can do some work. But I guess like monsters and infantry, we'll say like a 7-5. Mobility is generally going to be quite low, like a 6 or something. Like we only have 1 jump pack unit. 1 jump pack unit. So our mobility is probably quite low. Maybe even, I think a 6 is probably okay. And then specialization, like I just don't know if there's a huge amount of synergy in this list, period. So, and there is some generally pretty poor, they're not poor choices, they're just, these units are poor in 9th edition, right? Like Tactical Squad isn't a poor choice. So to speak, it's a I think their stats are bad in 9th edition. Same as the Centurions at 100 points. They are too expensive to be competitive. And then the Baal Predator, I mean, it's not terrible, but there is better options again for the points. So we'll probably say like a 5 or a 6 for specialization. We'll say 5.5. So there's a lot of work that this list could get done to make it better. And I guess the starting point would be buy a box of Phobos units, buy another box of Sanguine Guard, get Redemptor Dreadnought. Probably start by like drop the Centurions, get 4 more Sanguine Guard, get Redemptor Dreadnought. That's about the same points actually. The Redemptor Dreadnought's 180 and the 4 more Sanguine Guards are 120. So buy another box of Sanguine Guard, get them done, drop the Centurions. So you need to Sanguine Guard and a Redemptor. That's like 300 points, and that makes this list a lot better straight away. maybe find a captain that's either, you are a member of the channel, so maybe next week you can win one of the captains that we're giving away. We're giving away the guys on bikes, so you can make yourself a biker captain. So maybe you get yourself a biker captain or a jump pack captain, and then Phobos troops. I guess if you want to still run a battalion, get rid of these tactical squads and replace them with Phobos units. And Gitley scored this list on a 33. Probably a little bit harsher than me, but I don't think it would get very far in a competitive environment either. But it would be fun for casual games. All right, so moving on to list number. So when I get the last Start Collection box at my local game store, what should I turn the tactical squad into? That is a very good question, Matt. So the tactical squad is because I have that tactical squad actually, and what I did with mine was I started converting them into company veterans, and the cool thing about veterans is, if you don't know, and let me just quickly show you company veterans, Matt. Company veterans have a really interesting rule, and it's the Bodyguard Rule, and they're also free to include in your... I have to double check I remember the wording. 1 second, let me find it. Where are they? Company veterans. So, company veterans contain 3 or more models. Every model is equipped with bolt pistol, bolt gun, or frag grenade. So, the cool thing about the veterans is any number of model can replace one weapon from the pistol list with a melee weapon or a storm shield. So you can give them all storm shields if you want. The squad actually contains just 2 models to begin with. So 1 sergeant and 1 veteran. So it's a very cheap squad. If you just want 2 guys with bolters, you can do it for 40 points. And you can use these guys, like they're power level 3 essentially. So you can have them start in strategic reserve along with something else. Very cheap to strategic reserve them. Or you can just have 2 of them sit on objectives. When I was using company veterans, I was using 2 of them with storm shields and lightning claws. And I was just having them sit around, do scramblers, hold objectives. And the cool, interesting thing about them is this Bodyguard Rule. So while a friendly chapter character units with wounds of 9 was within 3 inches of this, enemy models cannot target that character with ranged attacks. Now, it's kind of a little bit better than Lookout Sir, right? Because it's just 2 guys, and you can have them in the midfield. Like, my plan was to put my Blade Guard veterans and these guys in the midfield, and maybe that means my priest could be in the midfield as well, and they wouldn't be able to shoot the priest. All these guys would get the 6+ from the priest. They also have their storm shields for their 4+ invulnerable save, and if a company detachment includes a captain, then 1 veteran unit can be included in the detachment without taking a battlefield role slot, which means basically this is an elite squad, but if your company, if your detachment contains a captain, then you don't need to use up one of your elite choices for this, right? So you could still have 6 other elites in the battalion, and these guys would be your 7th for, they wouldn't fill up the battlefield role. So you could build these guys into however you want them. You can just leave them with the bolt guns. I have seen some people run them with they have quite a few different weapon options. I've seen some people run them with storm bolters and a storm shield. So they're just they have a storm bolter and a storm shield, and they sit in the middle of the board, or they sit on objective and do a little bit of return fire. If they're in cover with their storm shield, they're obviously on a 1-up save as well. So you could have fun with them as company veterans. Or you could use them to build other characters and stuff. They have pretty unique looking models with the cloaks, so they're pretty cool. I found an old Solace message in Discord about his list. He's doing casual play against Tyrannas and World Eaters. Alright, thanks, Exo. No company veterans yet. The company veterans are really good for a tiny throwaway unit to hold objectives and do actions towards secondaries. I think that's this real strength of the veterans. And also, the veterans don't have jump packs, right? So they use the regular backpacks that would be custom from the tactical squad. And another thing you can do with the veterans, which is interesting, is you can put them in drop pods. If you ever fancy doing a Blood Angels drop pod, then you could totally do veterans with a drop pod. You know, arm them with the lightning claws, arm them with power swords, however you want to do it. So I think I've seen a few lists that have like a couple of veterans in them, and they are pretty interesting. But yeah, I would also use the tactical squad box to make all sorts of manner of fun things, and conversions as well. You know. Okay. So James says, right. So James messaged me like right before the stream started, and I think he wanted to lose the assault intercessors, and I think he wanted to lose one Death Company Marine, and he wanted to add a Whirlwind, is what he was saying. Okay, so let's have a look at James's list. And it is a battalion, and he starts with Commander Dante. So we know and sort of love Dante, but we have made some characters recently in some of the videos, the tactics videos, that are maybe a little bit stronger than Dante, but Dante's fine. And he gains you 1 CP for having him as your warlord, so there is that. We then have a Librarian who's a Veil of Time, Unleash Rage, Null Zone, Psychic Fortress. He is the Chief Librarian. He is the hero of the chapter, and obviously he has the Tomb of Malkador. What was his... And Psychic Mastery to +1 to all his Psychic tests. Okay, so pretty interesting Librarian. If possible, it's better if this Librarian has a Force Sword than a Force Staff, I believe. The Staff is like +3 Strength, -1 AP, where the sword is +1 strength, -3 AP. I think you get more value out of the sword, but it's super minor. There's not much difference in here. And then we have a Sanguine Priest who has the jump pack and Visage of Death. Interesting that he hasn't made him the Selfless Healer. I would totally do that. It's worth doing. There's almost no reason not to make him the Selfless Healer if you're starting with what, -1 CP from... Yeah, so I think you need to upgrade him. Has he paid for the upgrade? No. Is that the problem? He hasn't made him the Chief Apothecary. Okay, so we need to find 15 points if we're going to make him the Chief Apothecary. And then we make him the Selfless Healer as well. Let's see where we go from here. It's so frustrating GW discontinued the tactical squad box set. It was such a nice looking unit, as many have said. Great for bits. Yeah, I mean it's one of the best boxes for bits. The Firstborn Death Company is pretty good as well. So you can grab that if you need bits. But alright, so I guess he's gonna actually have changed this into like a patrol and a vanguard detachment, or a double patrol. No, he's got too many elites. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, he's got too many elites. So it's going to be a patrol and a vanguard. So it's going to cost him 3 CP to do that. But 2 Incursor squads, 4 Blade Guard veterans. It's going to be 2, 4, 8 Death Company Marines, 4 Thunderhammers, the Sanguinary Ancient with the Rites of War and the Wrath of Baal to give the additional movement speed, which we're seeing less and less. You know, the Sanguinary Ancient seemed to me like it was super core last edition, but like people aren't running it as much now. It just doesn't seem like it's... I mean, the reason to run him before was he used to give the 5+ shrug with the Standard of Sacrifice. I guess without that, he isn't getting seen so much. I mean, the Wrath of Baal... There is value in the Wrath of Baal if you're running multiple jump pack units, and I guess he does have 3 jump pack units here, and it's... The other thing is 2 8-man Sanguine Guards with swords. I guess he has Inceptors as well. I mean, they would get bonus from the Sanguine Ancient, but they'd probably be deep striking, so you wouldn't really see it. And then he's going to add the Whirlwind. I had no Blade Guard and 2 9x Sanguine Guard squads with 10 Death Company, 5 Thunderhammers, 5 Chain Swords, and the Sanguine Priest as a Chief Apothecary. However, felt the Blade Guard offered some solid mid ground holding, especially for objectives and Oath of the Moment. And I think that's how a lot of people are playing Blade Guard, right? 4 Blade Guard with Transhuman, sort of pushed into the middle of the board, something like that. List name needs updating, thank you. So this is James's list, and I think to me, it feels a little bit more like an 8th edition list. I mean, we've got 3 Plasma Inceptors as their shooting, and I don't actually rate the Whirlwind as shooting, right? The Whirlwind will occasionally do 1 damage a turn. The whole point of having the Whirlwind is to have the suppression fire. I think in the game I played against Tyranids, like last week, the Whirlwind did do 1 damage per turn. I think against the Death Guard it killed some Poxwalkers, and I think against I can't remember who else I played, but yeah, just I don't see the Whirlwind as a damage dealer at all. So we've got 3 Plasma Inceptors, and this is more of an 8th edition list, right? Where you have your Sanguine Ancient giving your jump pack units 14-inch movement, and then you have 3 really strong jump units to deal with it or to move up. So I think the first thing to say is, we've said it a few times: 2 squads of Sanguine Guard. They're not going to be good against Death Guard anymore. I mean, it's just the bottom line. If you fight against Death Guard and you have 500 points of Sanguine Guard, you just have to instantly be happy with all their damage being halved. And that's going to be brutal, and you're probably going to lose the game just based on that. I've fought Death Guard 2 times in the last 6 games, and we have ground out 2 wins, but the Sanguine Guard don't really... Like, you never come to the end of the battle and be like, wow, the Sanguine Guard did really well. What happens is the Sanguine Guard jump in, they just manage to kill something sometimes, or sometimes they don't even manage to get the kill now with a -1 global damage, and then they get brutalized in return because of the toughness 3 that they have to fight as, because Death Guard have that. I forget what it's called. What's the Death Guard aura called? Someone in chat remind me. Contagion is the Death Guard aura. So you get hit with their contagion and you're in toughness 3, and your Sanguine Guard just melt in return. So straight away my first thought is, like, if you want to run this list or something similar to this, one of these Sanguine Guard squads needs to become Vanguard veterans, and right now Lightning Claws are by far the best choice. They're amazing for Blood Angels. We wound toughness 8 models with the Red Thirst. 55% of the time with a strength 4 weapon, because it's pretty nuts, right? So if you think normally when you fight up against toughness 8 to strength 4, you normally would only wound basically 1 divided by 6, so you normally only wound 16% of the time. But because we get that +1 to wound, we normally wound 33% of the time. Then basically you miss 66%, or you don't wound 66% of the time, but the Lightning Claws let you re-roll all those wounds. So of the 0.66% of the time you don't wound, you again wound 33% of the time, which is 22%, give or take, plus the 0.33 we had before. So strength 4 Lightning Claws will wound toughness 8 armor 54% of the time on Vanguard veterans, and the Vanguard veterans get a boatload of attacks with Lightning Claws, and the Storm Shields make them super survivable. So straight away I'd say, like, let's lose 1 squad of Sanguine Guard. I think Vanguard veterans with Lightning Claws are 28 points per model, so 240 divided by 28. We get 8 Vanguard veterans in here, and we save ourselves 8 times 28. So we've got 16 points left over to play with. Weren't we looking down this list and working out? Yeah, so the 16 points we have left over to play with, we can use 15 of those points to make our Sanguine Priest Chief Librarian, and then give him the Selfless Healer. So I think 8 Vanguard veterans is pretty great. I run 5 of them, and I find them pretty great, so I think 8 is totally fine. And that would straight away make the list a bit stronger. Obviously, Sanguine Guard are great against certain armies, but if we're talking about fighting up against like multiple different enemies, and you're trying to build a list that's going to do well against everything, then you need to consider that your list is going to do badly against Death Guard. And I guess that's why when I'm looking at lists, I'm talking about 3 damage weapons, because 2 damage weapons essentially lose 50% of their if it's a -1 damage, a 2 damage weapon literally gets a 50% nerf, whereas a 3 damage weapon only gets a 33% nerf if it's -1 damage. So this is why as well, when I'm like looking at like HQ units, like I like my HQ characters to have a 3 damage weapon if possible. Obviously you can't do that with Dante. We did make a jump captain chapter master a few weeks ago that had a 3 damage relic blade, and basically we worked out that he would do more damage than Dante. So there is there, if you're willing to give up the 1 CP for Dante, then there is a jump chapter master that can be made. I forget top 8 HQ. Maybe it's in my it's in my. So just so you know, if you are a channel member, you get access to all the spreadsheets that I make every week for all my videos. And I guess this is one of the things. So if you compare this against Commander Dante, so he's 15 points cheaper. He's a master-crafted Relic Blade. So he's a captain with a jump pack, with an Infernal Pistol and a Relic Blade. He's given the Angel's Artifice, so he's +1 toughness, +1 wound, and he's 2+ save. He's also given Gift of Foresight, so he's reroll 1 hit, 1 wound, and 1 save every turn. And then he's Mastercraft on that Relic Blade, so he's Strength 7, which is the same as Dante. He's -3, -4 AP, again, same as Dante, but now he's 3 damage. So this guy actually has 2 more damage potential than Dante. And, I mean, I guess you lose Heroic Bearing, which is his big 9-inch leadership and reroll bubble. But you still have a 6-inch reroll bubble, and you still have Chapter Master buffs. And obviously you'd have to pay some CP for this, but the 3 damage weapon will again do better against Death Guard, and will also not get nerfed so heavily when you fight those -1 damage enemies, be it Death Guard, be it Death Guard, be it Dreadnoughts as well. I mean, I played up against that list of Custodes where you had the 6 Dreadnoughts, so you could say that is arguably the same sort of thing. Death Guard are top ranked at the moment, so yeah, I mean, I'm trying not to write off the list. I'm just saying, if you want a list that works against everything, you need to think a lot about Death Guard. And Death Guard, I think Goonhammer did a document like 2 weeks ago, right, where they rated all the army tiers, and Blood Angels are bottom of tier 2, or maybe, yeah, I think we're bottom of tier 2, and Death Guard are top of tier 1, right? But I still think we can beat Death Guard, and I think we can beat Death Guard. I mean, I'm not super scared of them. I mean, they're a bit scary, but I think with the right strategies and plans, you can beat them. But I think to beat them, and I think if you're trying to build that all-round list, then you need to consider a decent amount of 3 damage weapons in your list. Like, if you don't have a decent amount of 3 damage weapons in your list, or, you know, like we said, the Vanguard veterans with the rerolls and the lightning claws, then you're gonna have some big struggles. I still think double Sanguine Guard has its place. There are a lot of Marine armies in the meta. Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to think of when we're reviewing these lists is like I don't want to miss over something. And I think Death Guard are like they're super popular at the moment, right? Like there's a lot of people that are collecting them. There's a lot of people that are running them. They are generally very, very scary and strong, and I think that the days of double Sanguine Guard may be numbered, and I say, like, if you watched this show 6 months ago, you know, like if we went back and watched episode 1 of the show, I think we'd find that a lot of people were running the Sanguine Ancient, right? Like loads of people were running him, but over the last sort of 4 months, I feel like he's just dropped way off, right? I think some people are still running him at the highest levels of competitive play, but for me personally, I've not been running him at all. But yeah, so I think we could make this list better anyway. We get the Chief Librarian in there. We get a bunch of Vanguard veterans with the Storm Shields in there. We've had the Whirlwind so we can deal with the fight last, fight first. I think the list is a little shy on shooting still, even as it is, but I guess that's a distinct choice in this list, right? If you're going to run the 3 big jump pack units and a Sanguine Ancient, then you're kind of going all in on the melee, right? Like that's how I would look at it. If you think about the Sanguine Ancient, he's literally the price of like 2. Well, do you know what? Eradicators are 135 points at the moment, so he's literally the price of 3 Eradicators. So basically, this list is going all in the melee. So we'll score it like it was going all in the melee, I think. And I guess OBSEC, we do have 2 Phobos units, and we do have Rites of War in there as well, I think. Yeah, Rites of War and the Sanguine Ancient. So I think OBSEC is probably like an 8.5. It's pretty decent. Anti-Horde infantry effectiveness. Well, we have a lot of bolt guns as it stands. I'm just going to score the list as it stands. We also have the Whirlwind. We also have the Plasma Inceptors. So I guess like we can do a lot of damage up against infantry models. We can clear out a lot of infantry in a single turn if we need to. So probably something like a 9. Against monsters and vehicles, that's where it gets more interesting. So we have 4 Thunderhammers, which is probably borderline okay. I feel like I'm trying to think how many 3 damage weapons do I have in my list? I got 2 Redemptor cannons. I got a squad of Centurions with drills, so that's 5. I have a Chapter Master with a Thunderhammer, that's 6. I guess I have some Infernal Pistols in there, which I think that's 2 Infernal Pistols, so it would be like 8. What else do I have? Is that it? No, I have a Librarian with the Librarian Terminator with a 4 sword. I mean, that's D3, so that's potentially 9. Oh, and then 3 multi-meltas. So yeah, like I'm running potentially 12 or more 3 damage weapons, just so that is the Blood Angels tactical squad gone? I think that the one they've discontinued the custom looking Blood Angels tactical squad, so the very cool looking one. This one that came in that box, I guess. This one I think is now discontinued. Open link in new tab. Open image in new tab. Yeah, so this one with the sort of custom shoulder pads. I think that you can get all these shoulder pads though, right? Like some of these shoulder pads exist in the Death Company box. Some of these legs, I think, are like that. I'm sure that pattern with the double blood drop is in the Death Company box. Maybe not all these ones with the parchment hanging down, but definitely the shoulder pads. I guess the banner, you probably can't get that banner anymore in any of the other boxes. So if you can find one of these boxes and you want to maybe have a tactical squad at some point in the future, you'd probably need to act now. Okay, so so the list is very much all in on melee. Anti-vehicle monster, I mean, it's decent, right? You've got like a lot of Sanguine Guard swords. You have a decent amount of Thunderhammers. You have a decent amount of chain swords. You have a decent amount of Blade Guard veteran swords. But I think, and then they've kind of gone all in on the melee. So probably like 8-5. The mobility of this list is kind of the highest mobility you can have with the Sanguine Ancient. I mean, the Whirlwind doesn't need to be mobile. The Blade Guard aren't planned to be mobile. And then Cursors can be mobile with guerrilla tactics. So I think mobility is like a 9. It's just the specialization of everything being in melee that personally I don't like so much in 9th edition. But I kind of feel like I shouldn't score it down for that, because some people definitely like running Blood Angels as all melee. I was having big problems winning games when I was running like that. And I guess maybe that's just not how I like to play Blood Angels. I think probably you guys know that that's not how I play Blood Angels now. I play much more defensively, and when I have to run at the enemy, I never seem to do so well. So I mean, we'll give it like an 8-5. We'll say like maybe it could have used a tiny little bit more of shooting, but I do think some top players will actually run this list almost as is. Maybe just the Sanguine Guard swapped out would improve it, and that would free up the points you need for the Selfless Healer, which again would improve it. So maybe a couple of small things there that can improve the list, James. But I am going to give you the highest score so far today. It's just not something that I want to run. So I guess, does anyone know why? It's probably just because they want you to... I was going to say maybe they'll do I don't know. It's weird, right? It feels like they've been getting rid of some of the chapter identity for a little while. I'm not entirely sure why they discontinued that tactical squad. Maybe it wasn't a big seller, but I mean, it's not super competitive on the board right now. And I mean, you can kind of get most of the points from the Death Company box, I think. I scored this one 41, a few minor tweaks. Would like to see this one score a lot higher. I'd remove the Sanguine Ancient and 2 to 4 Sanguine Guard for some ranged anti-tank, and it goes to like a 43. Yeah, do you know what? If it was me, Gitley, I'd probably do something similar. All their legs are different to the Death Company. I've heard the tactical squad will be back at some point, but I wouldn't put money on it. All right, thanks, Daryl. I've got some Vanguard veterans though using those legs, so I don't know if I incorrectly got all the legs mixed up then. But I'm like 100% sure I've got those legs with those little double blood drops on them on some of my Vanguard veterans. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I think I'll leave my score as is, Gitley. But it's not how I run Blood Angels. But top players have run this; they have had success with it. The 14-inch move can provide, like, the deployment zones are closer in the new boards, so there's a lot of different changes. So I guess that's 43.5, and then so that's James, and then finally today is Slawomir, and I really don't know how to say your name, Slawomir, so hopefully I'm saying it close to right. But yeah, all right. So list number 5 today, and I've just updated it. Cool. So a 2K Blood Angels Alpha Strike list, and you know what? I'm going to read the list first, and then we'll read over what he says, because I always read that first, and it doesn't always make super sense. So, a couple of relics, and we've got Angel's Ascendant, and we've got a company champion who has the Blade of Triumph. He's the hero of the chapter. He's Imperium Sword. We then have an Inquisition Eisenhorn. I don't ever run Eisenhorn, so we'll just quickly look him up as well. Inquisitor Eisenhorn. He's equipped with a Artificer Bolt Pistol, some sort of melee weapon that does D3, a rune staff that does D3, grenades that do mortal wounds against vehicles, and obviously you can only include one of them. He can do 2 psychic powers a turn. He can deny 2 psychic powers a turn. Friendly Imperium can use his leadership of 10. He has a 6+ feel no pain, 4+ save. Once per battle, you can use this ability. If you do so, this model uses the Unquestionable Wisdom ability. Set up a Demon Host model within 6. I'm not sure what a demon... I'm guessing he can do some stuff with Demon Hosts, but I guess we probably aren't going to have them. I actually don't even know what a Demon Host is. Inquisition Demon Host. Never heard of it. Okay, so Eisenhorn has Mental Interrogation, so that's the one that we can cast on enemy characters, and he has Castigation. I'm going to have to check that as well. Interesting to see. It's funny, it's like nobody puts lists out with like Inquisition, and then all of a sudden it's like 2 in 1 week. Castigation has a warp charge of 6, select 1 enemy unit, roll 3d3, 3d6 if it's more than leadership, the enemy suffer. Alright, so it just deals mortal wounds. So he's 85 points. I guess the main advantage to him is he is a Psyker with a 6+ feel no pain, and he's got 2 psychic powers and 2 denies. And his other power is the Mental Interrogation one, to basically try and generate him back a command point each turn. Okay. I've lost the list now. Here we go. We have a Librarian Dreadnought, Quickening Shield, Wings, Chief Librarian, Hero of the Chapter, Gift of Foresight. Gift of Foresight seems like it might be okay on Librarian Dreadnought. I probably prefer Iron Resolve on him, because he doesn't have an invulnerable save, but I mean he has taken shield, so maybe he's going to shield himself. We then have a Librarian Terminator Armor, Veil of Time, Might of Heroes, Null Zone, Force Sword. And then we have the Sanguine Priest, Selfless Healer, Artificer Armor, Teeth of Terra. Alright, so this Sanguine Priest is actually geared up to do some fighting, which I'm indifferent about. Generally, I try and keep my Sanguine Priest out of harm's way. You can call me Slawek, or Slawek? Am I saying that right, or am I still saying it wrong? Eisenhower rules aren't great. It's the fact that you can take a demon host without breaking Savage Echoes. And what is a demon host, Highland? Keep me correct here. A demon host is a person that's been possessed by a demon, then bound to serve an Inquisitor. Okay, so maybe there's something to be said about Inquisitor. I take it the reason that you take the Inquisitor is to get the 2 extra denies, right? This list already has a shitload of Psychers though, right? So we're basically going to have 5 denies per turn, which seems like a lot. Alright, moving on though, and someone can keep me right. You then have Assault Intercessors, a 5-man, Incursors, a 5-man, another Incursor squad, 2 3-man Blade Guard squads, Company Veterans. So we were just talking about the Company Veterans map. We have a Company Veterans here, is 90 points. We have 2 with Lightning Claws and Storm Shields, the Company Sergeant with a Storm Shield and a Thunderhammer. So a neat little bodyguard squad here for a character or something. We then have a large Death Company, mostly Chainswords, 1 Power Fist, 1 Thunderhammer, with jump packs. And then I have the 10-man Sanguine Guard with 4 axes and 6 swords. I actually think 10-man Sanguine Guard is overkill. That I is pronounced like a W in his name, John. The I is pronounced Suavke? Is that right? I am like the worst at spelling and pronunciation. In Scotland, we speak like literally in slang about everything. So, like, as a kid growing up, my spelling was terrible because everybody speaks in slang all the time. So my pronunciation and reading and stuff is terrible. So I'm really sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Yeah, so 10 Sanguine Guard, in my opinion, is maybe overkill because normally if you are going to jump in, I mean, against Death Guard, maybe it's not overkill, but against most other armies, it is overkill. And then we have a Devastator squad with multi-meltas. I know, just 3 multi-meltas in the Devastator squad, and then a drop pod. Suavek. Okay, hopefully I said it right. Suavek. You know how simple I am, Mark. Thank you for keeping me right. Okay, Suavek. Okay, hopefully that's closer. Sorry. Alright, secondaries. Raise the banners, Oath of Moment, engage on all fronts, situational, line breaker, bring it down, assassinate, domination. Berserk side of the battlefield. Death Company Marines set up for Forlorn Fury turn 1, ideally opposite of forward deployment units of high value. Set them up in a T-shape for buffs from Sanguine Priest in the command phase. Makes sense. Company Captain, Eisenhorde, Company Veterans and Devastators land in the drop pod as close to the enemies and Death Company Marines as possible. These guys will provide more bodies in the area to kill high value targets and make the inevitable counter charge less attractive. With the champion hunting for enemy characters and Eisenhorde providing an extra body and either debuffing or churning out smite, turn 2 I can either press or withdraw upon Wings of Fire on the Death Company when less than 5 left, depending on initial effects from enemy response. If the enemy goes first and decides to spoil the target hunting by moving screens forward or withdrawing, Death Company can still clean it, but drop pod remains in reserve to wait for an opportunity. That makes sense as well. Middle, establish control. Librarian gives shield of Sanguinius to Death Company turn 1, then either himself or the Sanguine Guard move with, or either himself or Sanguine Guard, and he moves with the Sanguine Guard. Librarian Terminator advances to the middle of the board, assisted by Blade Guard veterans and buffs. Death Company then moves with the Sanguine Guard. Both Incursors deploy onto objectives or onto the nearest cover if available, ideally both. They're there to put pressure on the opponent to raise flags, etc. Assault Intercessors can hold a backfield objective if necessarily to raise flags. One of them is Quake Bolts to give +1 to hit. I'd probably try and put the Quake Bolts on something other than the Assault Intercessors just because... Oh, you've got it on the Incursors here. I'm fine with it on the Cursors. I was thinking if it's on the Assault Intercessors, they don't have the greatest range, so you may end up wasting it. Sanguine Priest is moving, protected by the Sanguine Guard, meets up with the Psyker unit midboard. Second units of Blade Guard veteran chase after it, with advancing to protect them from the rear deep strike. There's enough bodies to raise 5 flags turn 2 at the latest, and enough mobility to present a powerful counter. This side is the patient game. Okay. Book 5 of the Siege of Terra goes on pre-order next week, and we're getting closer and closer to Horus v Sanguinius, one night only. Yes. I imagine that's going to be book 7 that we have that battle, Mark. Someone was asking me when they think it is. I think it's going to be book 7, right? Okay, so 2 Blade Guard veteran squads, large Death Company, large Sanguine Guard, small veterans in the drop pod with the Devastators, and then the Company Champion and Eisenhorn, and then the 2 Librarians and the Priest, and then Incursors and Assault Intercessors. So it's a very melee focused list as well. I mean, we've got the 1 Devastator squad with the 3 multi-meltas, which could pop some enemy armor, and I think that they would probably need to. I do think 10 Sanguine Guard can be overkill in most matchups. I feel like 8 is the magic number at the moment. Like, I usually run 8 with the Chapter Master, but I guess there's no way to reroll here, so maybe 10 is the correct number. I guess if you've got the Chapter Master, I think you're probably safe with 8 Sanguine Guard. Maybe without the Chapter Master, you have 10. And obviously the 10-man Death Company for that aggressive turn 1 is pretty interesting as well. I do wonder if there would be a way of maybe combining this Blade Guard veteran into 5-man, and then freeing up a few points, but I'm not entirely sure what we would do with those extra points. The one thing to be said about this list is Assassinate will be Assassinate will be an interesting pick for your opponent, right? Because you have 5 characters, and a couple of your characters aren't going to be that survivable in that, like Eisenhorn, the Company veteran, the Company Champion, your Librarian, and Terminator armor, I guess, is sort of survivable. Terminator armor's 5+ is kind of average, right? Once you're pushed on your 5+, you're not really survivable. So yeah, there might be a small risk on that, and yeah, I mean, I think I would rather have one larger squad of Blade Guard veterans if they're in the middle of the board, potentially with the Priest for a turn or something, because you could transhuman them and make them very survivable. And I do generally like to have a little bit more shooting, personally. I didn't realize Ironhorn was 110 points. That's actually quite a lot. Like, that's almost your Whirlwind points. Like, you could drop Eisenhorn. You still have 3 denies here. So you could drop Eisenhorn and drop 1 Blade Guard veteran and combine the squads, and then you've got enough points for your Whirlwind, which gives you that fight last, and also potentially makes the enemy fight last when they charge you. If you're worried about the enemy being able to countercharge your drop pod in your Death Company, then the Whirlwind is going to be super good there, right? Because it's going to let you fight first, even if you are countercharged for 1 CP. So you could consider that. I don't run Eisenhorn or Inquisitors enough to know if there's a lot of value in them. I do think the Mental Interrogation sounds interesting in that you can gain back some CP from them. And I mean, it sounds like Eisenhorn can do a bit of damage as well. Like, his profile and his guns and stuff look pretty interesting. Like, his pistol's pretty average, but his grenades pretty good against vehicles. His melee doesn't seem bad at all. The -3 +1 to hit, so he'd be hitting on. He's basically got a WS of 2 with 4 attacks, for D3 damage at -3. So yeah, it's an interesting sort of list there, and I guess you can smite as well and stuff. So yeah, I think if we score it, and then we'll think of any improvements that we can make to it. So scoring wise, we do have 2 Incursors and Assault Intercessors. So probably like an 8-5 for OBSEC. We, a standard three troop OBSEC. Anti-Infantry Horde. It's not going to be ideal if the Death Company have to chew through chaff units, but I mean they can certainly chew through them with the 8 chainswords, and the Devastators coming in as well with your company veterans, and then I guess maybe the Sanguine Guard coming in after that. So we can do okay against hordes. I mean, I don't think it's amazing, but I think we can do okay. So maybe like an 8. I mean, we don't really have any firepower to clear out the screens beforehand, so maybe there's a bit of weakness there. I like splitting the Blade Guard to make them action monkeys. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's definitely something you can do as well, and I guess you can make your company veterans action monkeys as well. Okay, and then against monsters and vehicles, I mean, the Death Company and the Sanguine Guard will do pretty decent. You have some multi-meltas in there as well. Blade Guard veterans can do decent. We have another Thunderhammer. Maybe there's a little, and then the Librarian Dreadnought as well, I guess. I was going to say maybe there could be a few more 3 damage weapons in the list. I mean, we do have the Blade of Triumph as well on that character, so it's decent as well. Maybe if you're fighting against Death Guard in a more competitive setting, you need a little bit more punch, but like with more multiple damage weapons. But I think overall it's probably decent. And then mobility wise, I guess the drop pod makes it feel more mobile than the list actually is, but overall most units are pretty mobile, so I think it's like an 8. And then specialization, so personally I would have liked I like to see a little bit more firepower in my lists. I'd also maybe like to see that Whirlwind if you're going to be super competitive. The tactical squad is a younger kit than the Death Company. Yeah, that tactical squad's been around for a long time, I guess. And I guess if you're not super competitive, then your specialization is probably like an 8, right? Like, you probably know that you're pretty focused on your drop pod and your Death Company making the plays. If they don't make the plays, then maybe you have some other problems. But yeah, I think it's like an 8. I'm not sure what I would change. I mean, I do see some people consider running these double librarian lists, and I guess this is a sort of triple librarian list. I mean, maybe there could be something to be said about like splitting this into a patrol and a vanguard, if you can take the CP hit, and then dropping like the assault intercessors or something, and then using those points to and maybe like drop 1 Sanguine Guard, the assault intercessors, 1 Death Company, so you're running like 9-man squads of both, and then like bring 3 attack bikes with multi-meltas, or bring a Redemptor Dreadnought. Gitley says he scored this list as 40. I think you could reduce the size of the Sanguine Guard, and maybe 1 Psyker as 3 seems a lot, and maybe another range threat. Yeah, so I guess Gitley and I are sort of on the same page, right? Maybe you lose like a Sanguine Guard and a Death Company and a troop choice, or one of the 3 Psychers, because you can probably a 3 denies per game, or 3 denies per turn for the Psychers seems pretty legit, right? Like, I usually just run 1 deny, because I don't typically make my Psyker the Chief Librarian, so I'm just running it with 1 deny, and I think 1 deny feels like okay. 5 denies seems crazy. 5 denies seems like you'll give turns where you just can't deny because the enemy doesn't cast 5 powers. So 2 Psychers is maybe a better option, but yeah, it's an interesting list. So Gitley gave it 40, and I guess the strongest list today on my scoring, I guess, was James's list, but it's not really how I tend to run things. And then the other lists weren't far behind. Steve and Tom's list were right there with them, but Solos was a little bit. His list felt a little bit like he'd returned to the hobby after a bit of a break. So yeah, needed maybe just not the the best list we've ever seen at the moment. Okay, cool. So that's pretty much the stream for today. hopefully you guys get a chance to play these games and let me know. Let me know how you get on with them. If you did enjoy today's stream, please hit the like button. It does really help out. It's much appreciated. And we'll post up how we're going to give away the bikes. As mentioned, we'll be giving away those at some point, probably in the next week. So it's 3 bikers, and each bike, I guess, can be converted into some sort of captain on a bike. And the only other thing to really say today is, thanks so much for watching, and we will be live tomorrow night at 7:30 against an Iron Hands list that contains the Strayus Super Heavy, a Terrax Mining Drill, and an Ironclad Dreadnought that is upgraded to be a character. So that will be a pretty interesting game tomorrow night. So if you want to check that out, you can check that out, and we'll be live from about 7:30. So thanks for the stream and chat, everyone. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys. It's always a great show on the Sunday. If you did, like I said, if you enjoyed the show, hit the like. If you're new here, you could also consider subscribing. We're doing Blood Angels content pretty much every few days. We will be live tomorrow. Hopefully, we'll be able to take the Iron Hands. I was going to say the Iron Hands Commander. We'll take the Iron Hands Commander down for sure tomorrow night. That's the plan anyway. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the Sunday. Obviously, you can catch us in Discord or in the Facebook group. We have both, so find those in the video description below. And also, if you want to support the channel, you can find us over on Patreon now, or you can join here on YouTube. So thanks so much for watching, guys. And this Friday's tactics video is going to be the highly requested Vindicator Laser Destroyer video. That'll be coming out on Friday, so people can see that. And the other thing people have been asking me to do is they want to know a little bit more about my decision making on secondary picking. Thanks for that, Toxic. Hopefully we won't need too much luck tomorrow. But I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll look at all the games that we've been playing on the channel recently and that we've been winning, and we'll talk about my logic behind how we're picking some of our secondaries to get good solid scores in every single game, right? I think against the Death Guard we had 82 points. I think against the Tyranids we had 85 points. So we'll look at the games that I've scored well in, and we'll discuss the reasoning and the thought process behind picking some of the secondaries that we're picking. And I guess in the chat for the live games, a few people have been saying oh, you should pick this or you should pick that, and some people haven't been agreeing with the secondaries that I've picked, but then we have been winning the games. So I guess I want to talk over some of our secondary picks and our choices and our thoughts behind it and why they seem to be working for us, etc. So we'll do that as well. I don't know, I was maybe going to try and film that tonight, so I'm not sure when it'll be out on the channel, but it'll hopefully be around soonish. And let's have a look at next week. So next week's lists are Alex Layton, Will Cherry, Will was around today, I guess I saw him earlier, Connor Cahill, Gareth Swift, and Mohammed, I guess just Mohammed CH. I don't know what happened to the rest of his name. I assume that's not him, the full name. And then the week after that is James, Matt, Simon, and Tom. So that's what's coming up next as well. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday night, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully we'll catch some of you tomorrow in the live stream. And I was going to say something. Oh yeah, we did just order new pre-painted terrain for the live stream. So we're still adding things to the live stream to try and make it better. So I'm not sure we're going to have a cameraman tomorrow. I will find out, but if we don't, we are trying to improve the live stream as going forward as well in the live games. And a video on Inquisitors and Assassins would make a cool couple of videos. Yeah, I think they'd probably need one video on both, because Assassins alone is quite a lot of information, Adam. But I'll add that to the list as well for future videos. I think I have quite a lot of requests for future videos, so don't worry. Every Friday, we have a video out, and we just make something new every week. So, all right, but I'll add Assassins and Inquisitors as a potential too. So, yeah, thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend, guys, and we will catch you all soon. By the blood are we made. Peace.